Representative Bennett.
Here.
Representative Caldwell.
Present.
Representative Casimiro.
Present.
Representative Corvese.
Present.
Representative Felix. Representative Lombardi.
Present.
Representative Norrie.
Here.
Representative Place.
Present.
Representative Roberts.
Present.
And Representative Bella Wilkinson.
Representative Batista is here, Madam Clerk.
Thirteen present, 2 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Welcome to the House Committee on Judiciary. We are here tonight with one vote that we will take in reference to the first bill on our calendar, and there'll be 14 other bills that we will have hearings on, and at the appropriate time, I'll ask that those bills be held for further study. But in reference to the first matter, scheduled for consideration is House Bill number 5568. It's an act related to cities and towns. It actually provides that planning board approval votes require a majority of the members present at the time of the vote / quorum of the zoning board would be authorized voting members, including alternates. I believe there's a sub-A. Where's John? John, would you explain to the committee what the sub-A calls for?
Yes. Chairman, the sub-A adds page 7, which addresses appeals to the State Housing Appeals Board for judicial review. In other words, the quorum that's necessary for zoning boards of appeal, and planning boards is also going to be applicable to the State Housing Appeals Board for judicial review. That's the only change to the bill.
So-called SHAB, State Housing Appeals Board. That's how the acronym apparently.
That's correct. I couldn't pronounce that, but that's it.
SHAB, yeah. Okay. So if there's any discussions or questions of John, I'd be happy to take them now.
Chair,
Yes.
I'm just curious, how many members are on the SHAB now?
I've been before them, and I'm going to guesstimate it's somewhere around 8 or 9, somewhere in that vicinity.
So we're saying a quorum is now 4?
The quorum would now be a majority of those present. So if a quorum was, say, 4, if it was 7, then it would be, a vote would be successful if there was 3 out of 4 that voted for it. A
Right.
tie wouldn't work.
Okey-doke.
What is the minimum, right?
Yeah, whatever the quorum is must be present.
So 4, okay.
But then it's not a matter of the successful vote is not if there's 7 people on it, that you have 4 people, because you only got 4 people at that one time. So that you'd have to have a unanimous vote. And this bill calls for a majority of the quorum as opposed to a majority of the board.
But no less than 4.
Correct.
Okay.
So if there are no other questions, then can I have a motion to hold House Bill 5568 as it exists indefinitely, and a motion to pass House Bill 5568 Substitute A?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dave Bennett. Okay. If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
We got a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, we got to get a roll call. We're on the TV.
Chairman Craven.
Aye.
First Vice Chair McEntee.
Aye.
Second Vice Chair Knight.
I vote yes.
Representative Jello.
Yes.
Representative Batista. Representative Bennett.
Yes.
Representative Caldwell.
Yes.
Representative Casimiro.
Yes.
Representative Corvese.
Yes.
Representative Felix.
Yes.
Representative Lombardi.
Yes.
Representative Norrie.
Yes.
Representative Place.
No.
Representative Roberts.
No.
And Representative Bella Wilkinson. The ayes have it, Chairman.
Okay. The ayes have it. Now we'll go on to the 14 bills that are here for a hearing. Do I have a Can I have a motion that all bills that are on the calendar or remain on the calendar be held for further study?
Move to hold for further study?
Second.
Moved and seconded?
Who was the second?
I think
Thank you.
Jason did.
Yep, thank you. Chairman Craven.
Yes.
First Vice Chair McEntee.
Yes.
Second Vice Chair Knight.
Yes.
Representative Agello.
Yes.
Representative Batista. Representative Bennett.
Yes.
Representative Caldwell.
Yes.
Representative Casimiro.
Yes.
Representative Corvese.
Yes.
Representative Felix.
Yes.
Representative Lombardi.
Yes.
Representative Norrie.
Yes.
Representative Place.
No.
Representative Roberts.
No.
And Representative Bella Wilkinson. The ayes have it.
Okay, well, the first bill I want to take up tonight is Representative Phillips is here, live and in person. It is House Bill 6048. It's sponsored by Representative Phillips on behalf of the judiciary. It's an act related to courts and civil procedure, particularly the traffic tribunal. It vests the traffic tribunal with the jurisdiction over the adjudication of alleged violations of the harassment of hunters, trappers, and fishermen, or fishing laws. The floor is yours, young man.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Judiciary Committee. As Chairman said, this bill comes to us from the judiciary itself. It's a twofold bill. The first, one of the parts is only that the minimum fine for a conviction on this situation would be $100 and the maximum would be $500. The second part is they wanted to make it uniformed where these cases will be adjudicated, and they wanted to put it in the traffic tribunal. What the harassment is hunters, when people harass hunters, trappers, and fishers, and when I was inquiring about it, I found out from a couple of people that some of the people that are accused of this harassing, what they do is they bang on items to scare the game away from the hunters. They set the traps off. If somebody leaves a trap open to catch some wildlife, they will set the trap off so they can't catch it, and that's considered harassment. So that's pretty much what the bill is doing, is just setting where the jurisdiction is and the minimum fine.
Okay, any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep, is this a problem in Rhode Island? Do we have a lot of these cases?
I wouldn't say there's a lot of cases from what I've been told, and I was talking to Chairman Bennett on one, because he also does fishing in that and possibly hunting, so maybe he can answer it also. Mm-hmm. But I know I know a lot of people who are hunters, so I would say there is somewhat. My issue is just that, they wanted to make sure where it's going to go. We couldn't find out, and I talked to Representative Knight about, I couldn't find out if it was right now going to Superior Court, District Court, Municipal Court, wherever, so I think this is just to clarify where it's going to go.
But we're creating a new violation, right?
No, the violation's already there.
Oh, it already is, because it looks new.
already exists.
Okay.
It's just trying to clarify a few
So-
sections of it.
So it clarifies that it's with the traffic tribunal.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the sponsor? Okay, I don't believe
Thank you,
there are
Chairman.
any witnesses are signed up, so thank you very much, Representative Phillips. There are? Oh, I'm sorry.
Did Representative Phillips want me to comment?
Sure.
We don't have a problem now, but about 15, 20 years ago, a bunch of protesters came down to the Arcadia management area, and they had pots and pans and trash cans, stuff like that, but it backfired on them. When they took off into the woods, it drove the deer to the sitting hunters, and there was a lot of shooting going on, and they got upset and left. But that's the only time I've seen it done in mass. you get people that'll come up and mess with your truck and stuff, you know, you know, put dog feces out, stuff like that. But I haven't seen any big protesting in the last 5 years, but I hunt private land, so it's a big difference there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Bennett. Now, do we have a witness that's ready? Hello, you're on the air before the House Judiciary Committee testifying on Representative Phillips' bill.
Good evening. This is Julie Hamill. I am General Counsel to the Rhode Island Supreme Court, and I thank you, Chairman Craven, for allowing me to speak briefly this evening. I also thank Representative Phillips for sponsoring the bill and for giving you all that excellent introduction. I would just reiterate what Representative Phillips has said, which is that this is essentially a cleanup bill. It is already on the books that this is a violation, and you may not be aware that DEM violations, some of them go to the traffic tribunal now. So my understanding is when we've seen these cases, they have been heard by the traffic tribunal, but we realized that there was a gap in the law that did not specifically have the jurisdiction listed in the traffic tribunal. So that's really all we're trying to address with this bill. So thank you.
Any questions of the witness? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony, and that concludes testimony on Representative Phillips' bill, House 6048. The next bill we have, I believe we have a couple of people that are on the dais here tonight. Let's see, the first one is Representative Shawcross Smith. It's House Bill 5984. It's an act related to corporations, associations, and partnerships, specifically the Rhode Island Business Corporation Act. It requires that annual reports of domestic and foreign business corporations, nonprofit corporations, and limited liability companies be filed with the Secretary of State between February 1 and May 1 of each year. Representative, you are free to testify.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chairman and committee members. House Bill 5984, introduced on behalf of the Secretary of State, aligns the annual report filing period of business corporations, nonprofit corporations, and limited liability companies to the same calendar period, which will be February 1st to May 1st. Currently, there are 3 different reporting periods for these entities to file their annual reports. As a business owner, I understand this clearly. I file 6 corporation annual reports, and then I also file a nonprofit annual report as well. This legislation will simplify my filing responsibilities and will do the same for many small business owners and nonprofits. I thank you for your consideration. I'm pretty sure online is the Secretary of State if they have any questions.
Any questions from the committee members of the sponsor? Oh, Jason.
Hi, Rep, how are you? Can you hear me?
You got to unmute. Rep.
I can hear you, yes.
There you go.
There you go. I don't know if you know this now, but I'm just curious, why, I don't see any issues in the bill, and I can understand why it's here, but why are we getting rid of the filing, updating the address of the registered agent? That's redlined in a couple places.
Yes, I saw that. I can get an answer for you on that, clear answer.
Okay, I
The
appreciate
Secretary
it.
of State was supposed to be on, maybe they can answer that too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the sponsor? Thank you, Rep. I think we have one witness, so you might want to hang out there in case there's questions of you through this witness's testimony. Aaron Easter Gardner. Aaron? Aaron?
Hello.
Yeah, you're on the
Yes.
air. You can testify.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Aaron Easter Gardner, the new Director of Legislative Affairs at the Department of State, representing the Secretary this evening. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify on this bill this evening. I would like to thank Representative Shawcross-Smith for introducing this on behalf of the Secretary. She did a very good job articulating the benefits of the legislation and the positive impact it will have in streamlining the reporting requirements for small businesses, small business owners, and nonprofit organizations. To maintain an active and good standing status, corporations, nonprofits, and limited liability companies are required to file a simple report annually with our office. However, each type of entity has a different designated filing period, resulting in various due dates, March 1st, June 30th, and November 1st, to be specific. These made sense when the filing process was paper-based, and it put a lot of pressure on the department and the filer. But today, 72% of all annual reports are submitted via our online filing system, and kind of eliminates the need to stagger those dates. But furthermore, the bill would establish a new filing schedule designed to improve the process, more specifically by establishing that one filing period from February to May 1st for all entities. It would align the filing period for both businesses and nonprofits to coincide with their annual tax filing period. And also, it allows an additional 30 days in the filing period altogether. Quickly, Secretary Gorbea recognizes the challenges of running a business. Over the past several years, our office has undertaken several initiatives to modernize the laws and filing requirements for starting and maintaining businesses here in Rhode Island. This legislation continues that work, making our state a more predictable place to do business. And I thank you for the opportunity to testify. And I understand that, I believe it was Rep. Knight had a question. One thing that I can say is I understand that it was an unnecessary requirement, and it was associated with privacy concerns. But I can make sure that our director, of a business division can actually get a more specific answer to the committee. And that'll be all.
Any questions of the witness? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm in support of this legislation, and I just want to extend a huge congratulations to my friend Aaron, who just recently joined the Secretary of State's office. So we are going to miss him, and it's definitely our loss over at Providence. So great to hear from you, Aaron. Hope to see you soon.
Great.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Rep.
Doc, you have a question? No? No? Okay. All right, I don't see any other witnesses, so that would conclude testimony on House Bill 5984. And we would move to the next bill, which we have Chairwoman,
Thank you, good night.
Chairwoman Williams on the WebEx. It's a House resolution respectfully requesting that Governor Raimondo issue an executive order imposing a moratorium on evictions due to the novel coronavirus disease, COVID-19, while at the same time exploring ways to protect landlords. And I believe Chairwoman Williams I see her on the WebEx.
Thank you and good evening, Chairman
Thank you.
Craven and members of the committee. As you know, the new administration and or us in general are in a new movement per se. So therefore, when the bill was sent over to the committee, it didn't have the corrected name. We still had Miss Thing over there on it, with all due respect. Anyways, Representative Casimiro, this resolution respectfully requests that Governor Dan McKee issue an executive order imposing a moratorium on eviction due to COVID-19 through the full duration of the crisis, while at the same time exploring ways to protect the landlords. As we all know, it's a two-way street. We have good landlords, and we have the bad ones. But we are in a crisis right at this particular time, and both entities, both sides, need to address and attend to business. So we need to look at both sides, the tenants and the property owner. Before COVID-19, even housing in Rhode Island, particularly for low-income folks, was abysmal. There's not enough of it, and our prices to own and rent have forced too many of our residents out of the market and onto the street. Especially one part of my district, the West Broadway, or the West Side, as they choose to name it, instead of at the West End. Certainly, individuals have encountered gentrification, and if you don't have $15, $18, $2,000 a month, sorry, ain't happening. You're gone. History. Now, with the public health and financial aspect of COVID-19, hundreds of families are in danger of losing their homes to evictions and have, in fact, lost their homes through eviction. In spite of it being said, the courts are not hearing this, everybody is safe, everything's okay. It's not really so. These hardworking people had their hours and wages cut at best. And at worst, they have been laid off or have had to close their own businesses due to COVID-19. This, in turn, prevents them from paying their mortgages or rent simply because they do not have the money through no fault of their own. I am aware that several programs have been created to help mitigate these problems, but from what my constituents continue to tell me, these programs, while well-intentioned, are extremely lacking and will not keep a roof over many of their heads. Shell, sham, scams, honey. Lots of our COVID dollars have gone for paid checks for individuals that are not deserving of them. And it's all in our neighborhoods, all in the poor areas of the city of Providence, Pawtucket, in East Providence and Central Falls. It's all the same. We are truly facing a coming wave of eviction that will force hundreds, if not more, Rhode Islanders onto the street. It's almost as to say, thank God for the warmer weather, because now we can find refuge under the bridges of the highways and byways that we have. We cannot allow this to happen, but if we do, it's on you. So that is my testimony with regards to the eviction moratorium that definitely has been and continues to be a problem in our state for many who cannot afford to pay these ridiculous prices that we've been forced to pay. And that's my testimony, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Any questions of the sponsor by the members of the committee? I do not see any. So we'll go to the phones. Maura Henline, Democratic Socialist Party. Welcome, Maura, to the House Committee on Judiciary. You have a minute and a half to testify.
Thank you very much. My name is Mara. I'm a renter and a citizen of Rhode Island. Again, thanks so much for the opportunity to speak. I support House Bill 5095 because I believe that a moratorium on evictions and exploring support for landlords will ensure public safety during the COVID-19 pandemic. People must have the ability to shelter in place and limit the spread of COVID-19. And I believe that relief solutions for investment loans and mortgages will enable landlords to continue to house renters without the risk of foreclosure, and therefore also exacerbating the number of people who must seek shelter in homeless shelters or moving into single-family homes that become overcrowded due to the number of people living there. These protections and solutions should continue for the duration of the crisis to prevent the possibility of COVID-19 gaining any further footholds in our communities and to prevent a housing crisis. Thank you so much for your time and consideration in this important matter.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Maura? Seeing none, the next witness is Alan McLeod, or McLeod. Alan, welcome to the House Committee on Judiciary. You have a minute and a half to testify.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. My name is Alan McLeod. I'm here today to strongly urge all of you to vote in favor of House Bill 5095 to establish an eviction moratorium in the state of Rhode Island. And I urge you for this reason, that ultimately the goal of a government and of a state is to keep its people safe and secure. And that includes housed, warm, not exposed to the elements, safe from this pandemic. And a statewide moratorium is one of the most, until the end of the coronavirus pandemic, is one of the most effective ways to do that. The federal moratorium is in place, but it keeps getting extended, and it keeps getting extended right as it's about to expire, keeping tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people on edge, wondering if they're going to lose their homes at the end of the month, unsure how to proceed from there. Do they look for new housing? Do they find shelter, or are they going to be able to stay in their home? If the goal of this committee and the goal of the state is to keep people alive and to provide for the needs of the citizens of the state of Rhode Island, then I strongly urge you to urge Governor McKee to sign this and to do it urgently. I see almost no downsides here. Extending this would give time for rent relief payouts to process. It would keep tenants in shelter. It would keep the banks from initiating foreclosing, and it would stop displacement. So I strongly urge you to, if your goal is to keep the residents of Rhode Island safe and house the least of our people, I strongly urge you to vote in favor of this resolution and urge Governor McKee to issue this executive order. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions for Alan? Seeing none, the next witness is Gabe Murnoff. Not going to be testifying? Okay, that would conclude testimony on House Bill 5095, which takes me...
Thank you, Chairman and committee. No, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Chairwoman. Next bill, House Bill 5886, Day Places Bill. It's an act related to cities and towns zoning ordinances. It allows the certified operator of a home-based business, as long as it meets the criteria for a home office income tax deduction, and use at least 10% of the premises for parking. David, I'm told that you're on WebEx.
Yep, I'm back.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, quite simply, I'm looking to the future where, as our economy develops, I see a lot of smaller businesses developing as technology comes into place, automation and things like that. We're going to see a major shift in our economy. And I'm looking to the day that small businesses like, quite frankly, people that do nails, barbershops, and things like that are looking for pretty much are side gigs for people. And I know of even today, I know certified nail technicians that just can't afford to rent out a space inside an existing storefront, but right now are, in essence, opening black market nail parlors in sometimes their garages or little side rooms in their basement. And I just want to bring these folks, into the economy and allow them to operate their businesses regardless of the local zoning restrictions on operating businesses in residential communities. Trying to draft the legislation so that we're not imposing, again, you're not going to get a situation where you're going to have large pieces of equipment parked in people's yards. That's not the kind of business we're looking at to get moving along these lines. We're looking to that single mother or that unemployed person that has the skill that they can do out of their office and allow them to do it. So in essence, that's the bill, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Rep. Are there any questions of the sponsor? Yes, Tom.
Representative, thank you. Just a quick question. How would you deal with the need for inspections to be done in that industry? We'll talk about nail and hair. In that industry, there are required inspections that need to be done. Would the home have to open itself up for certain hours during the day to provide those inspections? That would be the only problem I would see. I like the bill, but that would definitely, I could see be an issue.
So I would say yes, that they definitely would have to open up their place of business no different than a traditional storefront business. And again, these businesses are already operating in our residential areas unregulated. And this would simply just allow them to step out and advertise on a regular basis and be more productive members of our economy.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony, Representative Place. That concludes testimony on House Bill 5886, which brings us to another rep that is not a member of the committee that's on WebEx, and we'd like to let her go about her night by finishing this bill. It is, let's see, where is it? Representative Fillella's bill, 6087. It's an act related to property, Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. It modifies the summons for reasons other than non-payment of rent to add a certificate of service section and provides for posting of summons and complaints on a tenant's dwelling door. Representative Fillella? Oh, she's not with us. Okay. Well, there's one witness that that has signed up, George Clark. George, you're on the air. You're welcome to the House Committee on Judiciary. You've got a minute and a half to present your testimony.
Good morning, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Judiciary. I am Rhode Island State Constable George Clark. Thank you for considering our Bill 6087 to amend some inconsistencies in the Residential Landlord Tenant Act. This is a good bill that strives to bring uniformity to the service of process in eviction matters. The process I'm referring to is the actual notice received by defendant tenants. Consistency in the way service is made by the Deputy Sheriff or Constable minimizes confusion for the defendant tenant. This bill does not change in any way anyone's right, ability, or access to have a hearing in court. Non-compliance cases require an extra hearing in the district court to achieve service of process. We need to ask the court for extraordinary service. In non-compliance cases, defendants, tenants, and the landlord, property manager, or residents have already negotiated 30 to 60 days prior to filing suit. They, defendant tenants, are aware and notified of non-compliance issues. Attempts to correct behavior without the court's intervention have been made. Defendant tenants know the deputy sheriff or constable is coming. Additionally, we have no issues with residency in these cases. The address of the defendant tenant is confirmed. Non-compliance issues can be wide-ranging and minimally are a nuisance to neighboring tenants, but quite often non-compliance issues are a danger to the health and safety of not only other residents, but to property managers also. To give some clarity on what these cases can be, I'll give you an abbreviated list of the issues we see. Non-compliance can be smoking, with the smoke wafting into adjacent apartments. A recent case I had, the smoker was also on oxygen and twice set himself on fire, the second time much worse than the first. The tenant lived in an elderly congregate care facility with many residents utilizing wheelchairs. Thankfully, the local fire department's response prevented a tragic outcome. This is a case that could not be served without asking the court for extraordinary service. Defendant tenants can be out of compliance with HUD rules, jeopardizing federal funds on which a complex relies. This jeopardizes housing for many other residents. It can be drug dealing, violence against neighbors or property managers, and we see weapons violations. Often non-compliance cases deal with the potential danger to the health and safety of other resident tenants, and elongating the process puts residents and property managers in dangerous situations. And sadly, we have seen awful outcomes in Rhode Island. This is also a research issue for landlords. Yes,
George,
sir.
you have 10 seconds.
All right. Sir, we're just asking you to, help us to help the people in the state that cannot help themselves, people who rely on the court for justice and who rely on us to enforce the will of the court. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the committee. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Clark? Seeing none, that concludes testimony on House Bill 6087, which brings us to Second Vice Chair Knight's bill, which is 5974. I'll turn it over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill, 5974, which I'm putting in at the request of the judiciary, invests the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court with the explicit authority to address issues affecting the conduct of judicial business and order whatever responses he or she deems necessary. That's not quite accurate in terms of a summary. All the lawyers in the room know that the Supreme Court has supervisory power over the rest of the courts and indeed the entire judicial branch by virtue of its position as the Supreme Court. That rule is not necessarily codified in statute, and this bill is a stab to codify that and make it clear just in statute what exactly the Chief Justice can do. And that's basically it. I think it's just giving us more detail around the Chief Justice's authority, which I believe that he already has. And we have a couple witnesses signed up on this tonight, and the first one, if nobody on the committee has any questions, then we'll take the first witness. Hello, you're on with the House Judiciary Committee on Bill, goodness, my eyes, 5974. Please give us your name and give us your testimony.
Good evening, Representative Knight and Chairman Craven and the rest of the Judiciary Committee. This is Julie Hamill again, General Counsel to the Rhode Island Supreme Court. I thank you for considering this bill. I thank Representative Knight, the other representatives which have sponsored it. As Representative Knight indicated in the introduction, this will codify the authority of the Chief Justice, which I agree he already possesses, to take whatever actions are necessary when the court system faces disruption. Ironically, the judiciary had introduced this bill in 2019 and again in early 2020 at the request of our very prescient state court administrator, J. Joseph Baxter. And while I think the judiciary has been able to navigate the challenges of the pandemic rather well, this bill will further shore up those efforts. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and thank you again.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Hamill? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. It's a good bill.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
May we have the next witness, please? Hello, you're on with the House Judiciary Committee on Bill 5974. Please give us your name and your testimony, and we ask you to keep it tight.
Thank you. My name is Randall Rose. I'm opposed to this bill. I swore on 5974. I managed to guess which committee was calling me, so I went to the video. Yes, the bill's powers that it gives to the Chief Justice are extraordinarily sweeping. The Chief Justice, just one single individual, gets discretion to take any action deemed necessary to ensure that judicial business is effectively conducted, or any action deemed necessary to ensure the continued operations of the courts. That's an awful lot of power to place in the hands of one individual. And since it's the Chief Justice doing this, it would be very hard to appeal any decision made by the Chief Justice. So I think and the Chief Justice has the power under this bill to close courts partly or entirely at the Justice's discretion, not only in the case of a declared emergency, but in any other situation as well. I think it would be good practice to moderate that power somewhat. It shouldn't simply be one single member of the judiciary with no appeal. Either there should be a body responsible for doing it, or the power should be curtailed somewhat, or if it's one individual, there should be some kind of spelled out appeals process. This bill, as written, is way too sweeping, and it covers some territory that could be better covered by bills passed by the General Assembly, or could be better covered by restricting it to emergencies declared by the governor. So for that reason, I oppose the bill as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. We appreciate your testimony. Does anyone have any questions for Randall? Seeing none, thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Randall, are you still there?
I don't have a question.
No?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question for Mr. Rose. I would just like my attendance and my votes recorded, please.
In the affirmative.
Yes.
So ordered.
So ordered.
Thank you.
That concludes, there's no other witnesses, that concludes our testimony on Bill 5974. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the representative or chairwoman Casamaro section of the judiciary calendar tonight. And we'll start with House Bill 6080. It is an act related to the courts and civil procedure, specifically the family court. And it provides that only protective orders issued against adults are to be transmitted to the Attorney General's Bureau of Criminal Identification for inclusion in the RONCO system, which is a nationwide notification system. Protective orders against juveniles will be accessible to law enforcement. Julie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. 6080 has come to me from the courts, and I do have my subject matter expert, Julie Hamill, waiting to testify in this bill. And if I could also introduce 6081, they're both cleanup bills.
Yep.
And I think that they're very much self-explanatory, but Julie is my subject matter expert, and I think she'll do a great job answering any questions. And and on 6081, we do have a sub-A that we want to introduce based on some input that we got from the court. So I would defer to Julie Hamill, who's on the line.
Okay, well then we'll put 6081 in play. It's an act related to courts and civil procedure, and it removes references to minors in certain sections relative to domestic assault protective orders, as the family court currently has jurisdiction over those protective orders involving minors. We have two witnesses. The first is Julie Hamill. Okay, well then we'll do Ryan Holt on 6080. Ryan?
Yes.
You're on the air. You're testifying before the House Committee on Judiciary, and try to keep it to a minute and a half if you could.
Oh, I'll try to even go quicker than that, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. This is Ryan Holt, the Director of Legislative Affairs for Attorney General Morona, testifying in support of House Bill 6080. I know Julie Hamill from the courts will be speaking next on this one, but basically it really kind of updates the statute to reflect reality. The current RONCO system does not accept filings that include juveniles as defendants, so this statute would basically codify what is reality, but also allow law enforcement access to these filings. If there's any questions, I'll take them, but I do know that Julie will be speaking as well, but we do support this measure, and we worked with the courts on putting it together.
Great. Any questions for Ryan Holt? Yes, Jason.
Ryan, it's Jason. How are you?
Hi, Rep. Good.
Hey, how, just curious, how do police verify the existence of a restraining order when it involves someone who's under 18 now? Is there like a 24-hour hotline to the family court or something?
Rep, I believe that they call us actually right now because but I think this is what this is trying to fix that.
Okay, so the family court would have to come up with a system to...
I believe that is the case, and I think Julie can better speak to that.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Holt? All right, seeing none, Julie Hamel from the Judiciary. Welcome, Julie, to the House Committee on Judiciary again. You're going to be testifying on both bills tonight, 6080 and 6081, and feel free to take 3 minutes in order to be able to present both bills.
Thank you. Good evening again, everyone. My thanks to Representative Casimiro for introducing both of these bills on behalf of the Judiciary. With respect to House Bill 6080, there was some general discussion about this, but just to set the table a little bit, the Ronco system, as Chairman Craven mentioned, is a national system that is maintained by the Department of Attorney General's office. That BCI unit housed within the AG's office runs this central repository where all restraining order and no contact orders that are issued by the Superior District and Family Courts are sent. And the way that happens is the Judiciary has an electronic interface with the AG's office, and all of these protective orders are automatically sent over to the BCI unit. As Ryan mentioned, the Ronco system does not accept protective orders in which a juvenile is named a defendant. So all of the family court orders that are automatically being sent over there are essentially sitting in a queue, never to be entered. So what we're looking to do is to update the statute so that we can remove that requirement and stop sending those family court orders. And to address Representative Knight's issue, I would point out that the BCI unit has access to our juvenile database so that when it is after hours and a police officer encounters a juvenile, the police officer will call the Attorney General's office, the BCI unit, and they will be able to access that information. So this bill will essentially codify what Ryan said is currently going on. And just to give you a little bit of background, I wanted to elaborate on that. I'm happy to answer any questions on 6080. Otherwise, I can move on to 6081.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Great. So with respect to House Bill 6081, this bill was initially meant to simply remove the references to minors from the district court protective order statutes in order to clarify that all minor-related protective orders must be sought in the family court. But the Judiciary would like to put the committee on notice that we will be submitting a sub-A of this bill, and I'd like to explain why. The introduction of this bill prompted outreach to us by the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and the coalition pointed out that it would be very helpful if individuals who are seeking a protective order on behalf of a minor in the family court were able to procure a protective order for themselves from the family court at the same time. Now, that's not always an option because depending on the nature of the relationship between the two adults, a protective order issued by the district court may be needed. For example, if you have a non-married couple and the woman has a child from a prior relationship, if circumstances arise in which mom needs to seek a protective order for both herself and her minor child, under the current law, she would have to go to the family court for the child's protective order and then go to district court for her own. And the sub-A that we will be introducing will essentially make it easier for those people to seek a protective order in one place, and that will be at the family court. So I apologize that I don't have a sub-A for you this evening, but I wanted to at least explain it, let you know it's coming, and answer any questions you have.
And Chairman, I just want to go on record saying I support the sub-A.
Great, thank you. Any questions on the second testimony, 6081? Julie? Okay, Thank you very much. We have one more witness on these combined bills, John Wesley from the Rhode Island Coalition.
What's sub A?
John?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Craven. Appreciate it. This is John Wesley from the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
John,
thank Chairman and members of the committee.
If you could keep your testimony to a minute and a half, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, no problem, no problem. I believe you just heard from the Rhode Island Judiciary, so you've heard about the language, the sub-A language that's proposed. And if that language is introduced, we would be in full support of this legislation. Basically, as was just explained, if we could, get to a point where adult victims could also apply for a restraining order in the same courtroom as their minor children, without having to go to two different courtrooms as they currently have to. The court advocates that we work with throughout the state see that, unfortunately, they have to help victims apply for a restraining order in family court and then go to district court for the adult order. So this would close that loophole so survivors of domestic violence could protect themselves and their children all in family court with jurisdiction for children and the apparent plaintiffs of children all within one courtroom in front of the same judge. So with that sub-A language added from the judiciary and in consultation with Rhode Island Family Court, we would be in support of this legislation, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions of the witness? Seeing none, that completes testimony on House Bill 6080 and 6081, which brings us to, let's see, I think Representative Batista is here. Oh, there he is, yeah. House Bill 5975, it's an act related to criminal offenses, practice of law, provides that the Rules of Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee would be approved and promulgated by the Supreme Court. The floor is yours, young man.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. I just trying to pull it up here before that. 5975 is a pretty simple bill. I think the way it's written now, there's a committee that's appointed by the Supreme Court that is supposed to come up with rules that govern what it means to practice law, or practice law when you're not supposed to be. This bill would simply change a provision at the bottom of page 1. Instead of a copy of the bills being filed with the Secretary of State, it'll instead be approved and then distributed by the Supreme Court. And that is basically the only change to the bill that exists right now. I should be saying, and I should state for the record, that it's been submitted at the request of the judiciary.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we have one witness, Julie Hamill from the Rhode Island Judiciary. Julie, you're a frequent flyer tonight. You're back on the air.
You're going to get tired of hearing from me.
No.
Good evening. I'll make it short, but I do want to put some color around this. Thank you, Representative Batista, for introducing this bill on our behalf. Currently, the rules of the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee are drafted by the committee and approved by the Supreme Court, under whose direction the committee operates. Now, General Laws 112719 provides that the UPLC rules are required to be filed with the Secretary of State and available for public inspection. This has never been an issue. However, in 2018 and 2019, the Secretary of State, to her credit, completely overhauled the code of regulations that office maintains. And they instituted new formatting requirements, and different rules consistent with the Administrative Procedures Act. And although the Secretary of State acknowledges that the judiciary is exempt from the Administrative Procedures Act and thus not subject to the publication and commentary requirements, the Secretary of State was still requiring that these UPLC rules be reformatted to fit into the Code of Regulations. So that is why we're here before you asking that the UPLC, because it is under the auspices of the Supreme Court, be allowed to have their rules approved and published by the court like every other set of rules pertaining to both the courts and those boards, commissions, and committees which are under the court's supervision. So not very exciting, but a practical necessity, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions of the witness by the members of the committee? Seeing none, Julie, if you will hang on, because you have two more bills that will take in successive order, that you're the only witness on as well. So if you hang on there, we'll get to those two bills. So that completes testimony on Representative Batista's Bill 5975, which brings us to Representative Noray's Bill 5976, an act related to motor and other vehicles, miscellaneous rules. It provides that permissive use of a wireless communication device for the purposes of navigation of a motor vehicle shall be available in cases where the device is mounted or otherwise affixed to the vehicle and not held in the motorist's hands. Representative Noray.
Thank you, Chairman. As you've heard so expertly done tonight, I'm going to let Julie Hamill give the explanation on this bill. Although we did discuss it, and I am very aware of what the bill does, she does a much better job.
Julie?
Thank you, Representative Noray, for introducing this bill on our behalf. Currently, General Laws 312230, which is entitled Text Messaging While Operating a Motor Vehicle, prohibits a person from composing, reading, or sending text messages while driving a motor vehicle. One of the exceptions in the statute, however, allows a wireless handset to be used for navigation. So as a result, what we're seeing in the traffic tribunal are a lot of motorists who appear and they will admit that they were operating while holding their phone, but they claim that they were using or accessing their music apps or navigation apps while operating their vehicle. So in an effort to clarify that the conduct which is intended to be prohibited by this statute is actually prohibited, we're proposing that the statute be amended to preclude an operator from holding a wireless handset while operating the motor vehicle. So they couldn't be utilizing any apps. You know, it's not just texting, it's actually holding the phone and doing anything with the phone. So the bill would still preserve the exception for using a GPS on an integral navigational unit in a vehicle, but if you're using a GPS or a navigation app, it would require that the phone be affixed or mounted in the vehicle when it's in use. So really, this is just an example of, you know, the practical realities that, you know, some, as we've said in committee before, some savvy lawyers have kind of found in these bills that are of recent vintage, and we are looking to close those gaps.
Any questions of Julie Hamill? Yes, Jason.
Julie, thank you for the bill. I have been in traffic court when, and I've seen these trials, and I know that getting to clear and convincing for the government can be difficult sometimes if someone says I was using my GPS or whatever. But what I'm concerned about is, what if I'm going down the road and I pull my phone out of my pocket and just plug it into the cable and attach it to the mount, right? I think I would run if a trooper happened to be right next to me, I'd run the risk of getting pulled over, and I haven't done anything. I've just plugged it in, turned it, hit it, put it on the mount, and maybe flicked the screen so that the car can talk to the device. I don't know.
Sounds like you don't have any hands on the wheel.
Well, you can do that all with one hand. But I guess what I'm worried about here is overzealous enforcement, right? Because people are going to pick up their cell phones in their cars. Now, they're not supposed to use them. You're not supposed to hold it up to your ear. You're obviously not supposed to text message, and I totally agree with that. That's the law today, and I voted for that. But there is a certain amount of like handling things in your car, and I can just envision somebody getting hauled in front of the court because they had their phone in their hand doing something relatively innocuous, no more troublesome than, I don't know, having a can of soda, taking a sip from it and putting it back in the cup holder.
Right. I hear what you're saying, but I think that, if the intent of the original statute that was passed was to prohibit texting while driving, And these exceptions are exploiting a loophole that is essentially letting people who text while driving, get off. It might be worth the risk of, as you call it, overzealous, enforcement. I don't think that's the problem we're going to have. I think it's a bigger problem on the other side of this, where people are texting, but then they have the ability to just say, oh, I was accessing an app. And as you pointed out, it's very hard to overcome that.
Right, and the troopers who have been successful in convincing a judge to convict someone of texting, they spend some time, they're able to articulate, look, I saw it was in both hands, their thumbs were moving up and down, there's no other motion that is similar to that. I hear where you're coming from, and I appreciate that the judiciary is concerned. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Any other questions for Julie? Oh, yes, Representative Norrie.
Thank you, Chairman. The original intent of the law, I believe, was hands-free, right? That's what we profess, hands-free operation. So, again, I can understand the intent of the bill. I can understand what you're saying, Representative Knight, but hands-free, I guess you're supposed to plug in the phone and set it up before you drive, and I think that's what the law is trying to resolve, is hands-free is what we claim to be, right? Hands-free. So that's all.
Any other questions? Okay, Julie, if you can hang on, we have one more bill.
Sure.
You're a witness on, but that concludes testimony on this bill, Representative Norrie's Bill 5976, which brings us to Chairman Shanley's bill, 5980. He asked me to introduce it. It's an act related to motor vehicles and other miscellaneous rules. It sunsets the provision which allows first-time violators to avoid the fine by presenting proof of acquisition of a hands-free device prior to the imposition of the fine, and that it's effective on September 1st, 2021. The floor is yours, Julie.
Thank you. So, finishing out our theme of hands-free, General Law 312231 was enacted in 2017, and it prohibited people from holding their phones to engage in a traditional phone call while driving, and there was a $100 fine associated with that offense. The law provides that any first offender could have their fine waived if they came to court and provided proof that they had acquired a hands-free accessory. So now that the law has been on the books for some time and hands-free technology has only improved since 2017, we are proposing an amendment to 312231, which would sunset the first offender provision. What we're proposing is that after September 1 of 2021, no first offender will be entitled to have their fee waived for violating the hands-free rule by showing proof of having acquired a hands-free accessory. At this point, we maintain that the public has had ample notice of the law, such that the waiver provision is really no longer necessary. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of the witness?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Representative Lombardi.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. So wouldn't this have more of an impact on the people in lower income areas in the minority community? And I'm just wondering, if not aware of, sometimes you're just not aware of it, and people in the poorest sections, may need their phones, for whatever. And again, I'm not trying to justify conduct. I'm more concerned about, some discretion, giving the judges some discretion to waive the fee, and if there's, some kind of a situation. That's all. That's more of a question than anything.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, Representative Lombardi, and I appreciate where you're coming from. I would say that the traffic tribunal does have the discretion in general to waive any fees that they are required to apply if they find that the motorist has an inability to pay. So I would say that that is probably where that relief can be found, even if the waiver provision is removed from this statute.
That's my concern, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Yeah, that's my concern. Whenever you waive it, Many times it's, and when what you get when we go practice in front of the judges, they say, well, you guys changed it, or, it's up to you guys to change it. And we did it with the deferment bill several years ago. And, and we continue to do it. That's how many of these come along. So I'm just concerned about dropping that language, and then it's hell to pay to try and reverse it, to say, okay, this is what we need. That's just in my humble way of practicing law and what I've seen. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lombardi. Any further questions of Julie? Okay, that concludes the judiciary portion of tonight's calendar and testimony on 5980 by Chairman Shanley. Thank you, Julie, for your testimony.
Thank you all. Good evening.
Take care. We have three more bills left. Two are very perfunctory in the sense that there are no witnesses. The first is sponsored by Representative Perez, 5630. It's an act related to Human Services Automobile Accident Social Protection Act. It creates an accident compensation fund to provide payments and benefits to those injured by uninsured motorists, to be administered by the Department of Human Services. There are no witnesses that have signed up. I've introduced the bill for the sponsor. Unless there are any questions of me, that would conclude testimony on House Bill 5630, which brings me to the second to the last bill tonight, which is sponsored by Representative Lima. It's an act related to insurance, motor vehicle insurance in particular. It requires notice of the reservation of rights to a jury trial in an arbitration proceeding to be sent by email, delivered, receipt requested, with certified mail return receipt requested, available if parties do not have email. There are no witnesses signed up. Again, I know a little bit about that subject matter, so unless there's any questions of the members, that would conclude testimony on House Bill 5088, which brings us to the large bill tonight, sponsored by Representative Diaz, 5309. It's an act related to property, Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. It imposes a moratorium of non-essential evictions / mortgage foreclosures during, she's on her way up, during a state of emergency declared by the governor relating to residential property, and establishes an eviction diversion program to resolve landlord-tenant eviction disputes. She's on her way up. Maybe we could take the first call, if it's available. Is this Enrique Sanchez?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Good, how you doing? Enrique, you're on the air. You have a minute and a half to testify, so please proceed.
Great. This is for House Bill 5309, correct?
It is.
All right, great. Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Enrique Sanchez. I represent the BLM-RI PAC and Democratic Socialists of America. I would like to thank the committee tonight for having this and hearing this out. I am here in support of House Bill 5309. I think that this moratorium, I don't even think we should be having this conversation. People do not deserve to be evicted or kicked out of their houses, out of their living spaces, especially during a pandemic. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have died. Thousands of Rhode Islanders have died. Thousands of Rhode Islanders have been sick. Economic instability has come to our state. These stimulus checks have not brought any help to the undocumented immigrant community. There are thousands of Rhode Islanders who did not receive any financial support from these stimulus checks. A lot of these communities live in some of the most marginalized, most economic, stabilized environments throughout Rhode Island. This includes Woonsocket, Rhode Island, Pawtucket, Providence, Westerly. There are hundreds of thousands of folks. So thousands of folks who cannot be kicked out of their homes. This moratorium needs to pass because folks, it's inhumane. It's inhumane to evict people from their houses during a pandemic, during a global crisis, during a state of emergency. We need to be there for our people. We need to be there for our working class folks who have given themselves to be able to support their families and their loved ones at home. Thank you so much for the committee. Appreciate it.
Any questions of the witness? Seeing none, the next witness is Carol O'Donnell from the Rhode Island Builders and Landlords Association. Carol, you are on the air before the House Judiciary Committee. You have a minute and a half to make your testimony.
Okay, hi, members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Carol O'Donnell. I'm chair of Rhode Island Builders Association. I also own a small construction company, CRM Modular Homes, as well as a remodeling company, Emerald Reconstruction. Rhode Island Builders Association represents over 900 members in the industry. I have grave concerns over this bill. As you're aware, we have a housing shortage. The bill presented will add to this crisis. It will be a deterrent to investors and finances. The bill will have negative effects on new construction, vacant units, and rehabs. Homelessness will increase, mainly because we will not be able to build more homes and get financed because we won't be able to collect our rents. On a personal note, I own rental units. I've worked days, nights, weekends. We keep the properties clean, safe, modernized, efficient for our families who reside there. In my opinion, Bill H5309 will devastate not just me, but all multi-unit owners, whether they're a mom and pop one-up or whether they're like myself and my husband that own quite a bit of property, 12 units, 2 families, etc. To expect us to lose our right in our private property we've worked so hard for, that's outrageous. We've worked with all our families through this pandemic. There are some who have taken advantage of us. The bill cannot and should not tie our hands at any time to incur financial hardships. We've incurred huge expenses, trash removal, sewer, water usage, tax increases, and that's just to mention a few. We should not be forced into mediation. When we get to the point of an eviction, we've already tried to mediate in every way that we could. The bill will create potential renters the ability to take advantage of a landlord. And I have rights that shouldn't be taken away.
Carol?
I can give you yes?
10 seconds.
Okay, I appreciate everyone listening to me. I hope you understand as a minority business owner, we continue to provide homes for our families in Rhode Island, both as a landlord and a contractor. Thank you for your time.
Carol, Carol McEntee is sitting next to me and says that she'd like to say something to you.
Hi, Carol. It's Representative McEntee. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
I just wanted to say I've spoken extensively with Carol O'Donnell about this issue. I know her personally. She lives in my district. She and her husband are very good landlords, and I know she makes great efforts to get people who don't have the ability to pay involved in programs like United Way, like a sign up for if they're eligible for PPP loans or unemployment. She's helped them every inch of the way. So I just want to make that known to members of the committee that she has been actively involved in helping her tenants to get the monies that are out there to help pay for their rent. And many of them do that, and some of them refuse to cooperate. So thank you for your testimony tonight, Carol, and I'll see you around town.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you. Chairwoman Diaz is here. She's come back from the Finance Committee, and who knows where else she was in committees today. Thank you very much for your work. I put the bill in play We've had a couple of witnesses testify, but if you'd wish to say something to the committee, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all members of the Judiciary Committee. I'm very pleased to introduce House Bill 5309. And the reason is because the bill is addressing the situation for tenants and landlords during emergency time. We all know that many people who live in apartments facing the difficult time to lose their job, living on their unemployment benefit, or some don't have anything. In moment of crisis, Rhode Island always identify as a big good neighbor in supporting people. But at the same time, the bill is not putting at risk landlords, because also we know in recognizing that landlords need to pay the mortgage. So the bill is addressing the two situations. As the law of Rhode Island is, before the COVID crisis arrived, when tenants refuse to pay the rent, they have to go to court and face the eviction and the process of that. Sometimes, maybe that process takes a couple of months. And some irresponsible tenants, because we have both ends, good tenants, bad landlords, good landlords, bad landlords. So sometimes, during those processes in the past, landlords lost a lot of funding and probably risk to losing their property because they don't receive a rent and they don't pay mortgage. What the bill does is designating a person. The person will be designated by the district housing court. And that individual, which is the designated housing mediator, will be acting between the tenant and the landlord to mediate in the situation that created by the emergency situation. One of the great skills the person is designated as a mediator is to have a knowledge about housing code, housing obligation for both ends, have the ability to reconcile tenants and landlord, be the mediator between the court and them. So, different than before, as I mentioned, right now on this bill, the landlord had the great opportunity to have somebody mediating between tenants and them. And that is great because through that, also the mediator have access to information and resources to provide to tenants to pay for those times that they're not receiving any unemployment or income. So the Rhode Island Housing have the resources for tenant assistance program to be sure those funding will be available to the mediator who we working with both in. So I'm very pleased to introduce this bill because it's a way to save money for landlord and save time. I say saving money because in the past they have to go to court to pay the fee, to go the process. Right now they're dealing with one person that they can see all the time. The person can mediate it between and figure it out how they accomplish the goal to landlord get paid and the tenant is still in the house. That is why I'm so excited about this bill, because it's reducing friction, provide resources, provide information. This week, I received so many phone calls from individuals, from landlords, concerning about the bill. If you read the bill, in the first page of the bill say, during emergency time. It's now that the law is allowing tenants to take an advantage. If the tenant refuses to pay, it's nothing in the bill saying that you decided not to pay and you're receiving income. This bill is not protecting them. It's for those who are living the experience not to have any income due to the COVID or any big emergency that the state can face. Again, this bill is just putting somebody between tenants and landlord. And the great part also is to addressing the issue that mortgages are putting into landlords in fee for late payment or facing foreclosure. Also, this bill addresses those two parts. So it's a win-win for tenant and landlord, and only finishing my presentation by saying, If you have a problem, call Grace Diaz, 401-575-3641. Because I'm proud of this bill, it's because we put in person, reducing fee for the court, having somebody the tenant can refer to get it, resources, and get the landlord secure the property by not imposing any abuse fee or foreclosure. So it's a win-win, and I want this committee have the courage, like me, to help people during the emergency time. So thank you, and I'm ready for take any question.
Any questions of the sponsor?
I love to see Mr. Knight say no.
Thank you very much, Grace.
Thank you.
Okay, the next witness on our list of call-ins is Christina Contreras-Fox.
Chairman, they just have a little trouble transferring the calls. Do you want to take, take the next call? Okay, we'll take Jordan.
Fatima Rodriguez? Fatima Rodriguez?
Yes.
Fatima, you're before the House Judiciary Committee. You have a minute and a half to testify, please.
Okay, good evening. My name is Fatima Rodriguez, and I am speaking on behalf of my husband and myself, who have been owners of a property in Cumberland, Rhode Island for about 20 years. And we strongly object the House Bill 5309. Hello?
Fatima Rodriguez?
Yes. She's talking to you.
Before the House Judiciary Committee.
Fatima, are you with
Hello?
us?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
okay.
Sorry, okay, sorry about that.
Please proceed.
Okay, so we strongly object this House bill. You know, I have to say, in the 20 years, almost 20 years that we've had this House, I've only had to evict 2 people because we do work with our tenants always. We've had many single moms that we've helped out. We have many people that we stay in touch with and that we've always helped through the years. So to say to you know, in regards to what Representative Diaz said about it helps the tenants and mediate and this and that, I've always tried to mediate, but there are just some people that you cannot mediate with. We've had issues with our third floor tenant since before the pandemic. He's been a problem prior to this imposed moratorium. He has legitimately stolen from us $10,000 in rent and utilities, which he continues to abuse with outrageous heating costs. Yet I have no recourse. I cannot turn off utilities. I can't force him to help pay the utilities. On January 8th, we were finally able to get to court, suffering with this tenant from day one who has not complied. Finally, we get an eviction order for March 1st, only for it to be derailed till the end of March 31st. Not even after being told by the judge that he should look for another apartment and move out, especially for our kindness, for letting go of the rent that he owed us just for
Fatima,
him
could
to
you please
leave.
wrap it up? You have 10
I'm
seconds.
trying. I'm trying.
No, you're doing a great job.
And then to get it derailed again for June 30th, to make this a law, it's just not right. It's unjust, and it's not balanced between landlords and tenants. We need to make this a case-by-case review. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatima. Next caller? Christina. Fox? Christina? Are you with us? Christina?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome to House Judiciary. You have the floor. You have a minute and a half, so please proceed.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. Good evening, members of the House Judiciary Committee. My name is Christina Contreras Fox. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I'm the Senior Policy Analyst for the Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless. We envision a state where no Rhode Islander experiences homelessness, and I'm here to give our testimony in strong support of H5309. Eviction and foreclosure prevention is homelessness prevention, and this bill would provide protections in a time when access to safe housing could not be more critical. The coalition recognizes that a moratorium alone isn't the answer. Emergency rental assistance is a key piece, and thankfully Rhode Island State Fund recently got a $180 million replenishment thanks to the last stimulus package. However, ERA is meant for homelessness prevention. It helps pay back arrearages so tenants can stay housed. Thus, emergency rental assistance is not accessible to people experiencing homelessness. So ERA without a moratorium is an incomplete solution. And speaking of incomplete solutions, the CDC moratorium itself is also an incomplete solution. It's very temporary, and the moratorium only protects against eviction for non-payment of rent. It does not include foreclosure protections, and so it's imperative that our state take immediate and comprehensive action, like passing H5309. As I said before, eviction prevention is homelessness prevention, or rather, eviction and foreclosure prevention is homelessness prevention. And since the pandemic started, we've seen an over 90% increase in our neighbors experiencing homelessness who are also unsheltered. In the last 30 days, 422 of our fellow Rhode Islanders have said that they're staying outside. So I urge you to give your support to this bill. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Christina.
My pleasure.
Next witness? Jordan Mickman? Jordan, are you with us? Oh. Hi, Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
Speaking.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have the floor. You keep it to a minute and a half, please.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, my name's Jordan Mickman. I'm the supervising attorney at the Rhode Island Center for Justice, and we did submit written testimony, so I'll keep it very quick for you tonight. Just a couple of points I'd like to point out. The central question before the committee tonight is whether Rhode Island should continue to have one eviction process that applies during ordinary times and also during a declared state of emergency. Another question is whether Rhode Island should continue to solely rely on federal policy or whether we should set our own rules. The CDC moratorium wouldn't apply in Rhode Island if we had stronger, more effective public health policies in place already. So, Rhode Island can and should do more to preserve housing stability during a declared state of emergency. I've seen the pile of opposition. I've heard the landlords. We've heard the landlords. And we understand that they're losing money. The entire economy is suffering right now. It's not just the landlords, and it's not because of the moratorium. It's because of the pandemic and the associated economic crisis experienced by everybody. So landlords aren't the only ones falling behind. So are their tenants. And Rhode Island's received more than $200 million in rental assistance to make these landlords whole. So we believe that through a mediated process, a lot of these cases could be kept out of court. At the center, we've been representing tenants over the last year and resolving a significant number of these cases, but our clients nevertheless still have these eviction records associated with them, preventing them from renting in the future.
Thank you, Jordan. Your time is up.
Just one last thought. There's no constitutional right to a specific eviction process. The General Assembly can and should do something to create an alternative system. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jordan. We have one question for you from Representative Knight.
Of course.
Hi, Jordan. Can you hear me?
I can.
So my question is, I understand that the district court essentially runs a mediation program right now, however informal. I mean, I think you just referenced it when you talked about having, helping a ton of people resolve their rental issues. That happened at court, right?
Well, we try to keep our clients out of court. We've done a lot over the phone.
I understand what you try to do. I'm asking, though, have you helped some of your clients through once they've been into the court process?
With a mediation process, or?
Yeah.
Not during the COVID times. I've used the court mediation process in the past successfully, yes.
Okay. And I appreciate the need, I appreciate the concern with court records, and of course, we could address that with a bill to seal those records unless there's some sort of judgment. And I think that bill's in, and I support it. So I appreciate your testimony, but that's the one thing I wanted to get on the record is my understanding is that right now the courts do a pretty good job around some of these mediation issues.
Representative, the point here is to keep the record from being created in the first place, to keep these cases out of court to begin with.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yep.
Next witness. Gregory, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1.5 minutes to get your testimony out. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. My name is Gregory Rice. I'm a small landlord here in the state with properties in Woonsocket, West Warwick, East Providence, and Warwick. The proposed legislation is scary because it fails to recognize that myself, as a small landlord, continually incur a variety of expenses on a daily basis. When just one tenant doesn't pay, the whole system and business I've worked hard to build gets thrown for a loop. The remedy, as always, has been to file a prompt eviction and work out a payment plan with the tenant at court. The goal of an eviction for me is not to create a vacancy, but just to make a deal that's favorable for the tenant and myself alike. This legislation will also create a roadblock to one of Rhode Island's largest economies, the real estate industry. Realtors, bankers, insurance agents, home inspectors, appraisers, property managers, maintenance vendors, and beyond will all be negatively impacted with the passage of this bill, not to mention the tertiary orbiting market, including stores such as Home Depot, Lowe's, lumberyards, and beyond. Lastly, 40% of Rhode Island's housing stock is rental property. That's almost 1 in 2 properties having a tenant in it. Please consider this wide impact, as it appears there's more here that can be lost than can be gained. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. No, excuse
Gregory.
me. Thank you, Gregory. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the next name.
It's all right. Thank you.
Have a good night. Next witness. Mario, are you with us?
I am.
So you have 1.5 minutes. Welcome to Judiciary. Please make it brief. You're on the air.
Okay. Hello. My name is Mario Palumbo, and I just want to say that I do not believe that this bill, H5309, is good in any way, shape, or form. My parents and myself came here many years ago from Italy. My parents are only able to afford a house because they bought a multifamily unit in which the rent helped them qualify for the mortgage and helped them pay the mortgage. And if they had a situation where they would not be able to collect that rent and not be able to remedy that in a timely manner, then they would have lost the house and most likely never been able to afford that house again. I think that it should be a just process between tenant and landlord, but ultimately, if an individual is making an investment, that investment has to be protected, and ultimately, if the people refuse to pay, then the remedy has to be that the legal process allowed that these people be removed from the property. Thank you very much, and certainly I appreciate all your hard work and help in these matters. However, just please keep in mind that for every tenant, there is a landlord, and there always has to be a balance and a remedy for both parties. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mario. Next witness, have a good night. The next witness is Mark Santos. Hello, Mark, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to get out your testimony, so proceed.
Okay, thank you, committee members. My name is Mark Santos. I strongly oppose H5309. The bill sponsor, Representative Diaz, doesn't seem to understand that a mortgage foreclosure moratorium only covers about 20% of landlords' commitments financially. Representative Diaz and tenant advocates like to say that landlords are protected by the foreclosure moratorium in this bill. Do they understand that your home can be foreclosed upon if you fall behind on property taxes? Do they understand that a landlord can incur significant fines and housing court time if they can't afford to fix the broken refrigerator or heating system? Do they understand that insurance policies will expire because landlords can't afford to pay premiums? All because of no rental income that housing providers require in order to maintain the property in a safe, livable condition. Can you imagine going to work every day for months and years on end only to be told you're not going to be compensated for your work? This is exactly why housing providers are furious, because this is exactly what this proposed bill does. Secondly, mediation already exists, to one of the committee members' points. Tenants, housing providers, attorneys, both meet outside the courtroom to come to a solution signed by all parties and then endorsed by the judge in the form of a stipulation agreement. This legislation only creates an additional layer of bureaucracy that savvy tenants will abuse to prolong an ultimate eviction. Let me be very clear. Housing providers will work at all costs to avoid eviction. It's emotionally draining for the tenant and landlord, costly and time-consuming.
Thank you, Mark, for your testimony.
So as a solution, I'll wrap it up in 10 seconds.
Okay.
Let's work to ensure that housing providers are compensated for lost rent through some type of a grant program like we have now. But right now, this bill does not have that written into its language. So this bill needs to be tabled or trashed until that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness, please. Keith?
Yes.
Great, we can hear you. So, welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your point. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, members of the House Judiciary, for allowing me to testify. My name is Keith Fernandez. I am the head of the Providence Apartment Association, as well as the Rhode Island Coalition of Housing Providers, which, if you don't know, is a brand new group that has been formed in response to these bills because they are so one-sided and unfairly written. So either all of us who are calling tonight, and there are many people who are calling that you will hear from, mostly mom and pop landlords, either we're very confused or the sponsor of the bill is confused. And I mean that in a respectful way because I really like Rep. Grace Diaz. On TV today, when I did an interview with Channel 12, I heard her say that this bill is only for during the coronavirus pandemic and has nothing to do with any other emergencies. However, tonight, when she testified, she said that it does include all emergencies. And she said that there is funding available, this corona relief disaster funds that are available. There is no mention of funds in the bill. There is no mention of this state of emergency only during the coronavirus crisis. So there are many issues with how the bill is written. I understand a lot of the reps are handed bills to introduce. Sometimes it's hard to explain what's been introduced. But the way it's written is completely incorrect. As far as the testimony, why it's a bad bill, I'll let the other landlords do the talking.
Keith, you're going to have to start to wrap it up. You have 10 seconds.
I will say that all the interested parties that are in support of this group are professional writers. Their jobs depend on this, and that's why they continuously put in bills that make no sense. This bill will devastate the rental market, make it unaffordable for good tenants. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, Maura, are you with us?
Hello, yes.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your point. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm a renter and citizen of Rhode Island, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak. I support H5309 because it provides necessary guidance on how eviction proceedings should be handled during these unprecedented times. As we all know, COVID-19 spreads most effectively in enclosed spaces where many people are sharing air. These are the exact conditions one finds in homeless shelters and the homes of those sheltering their friends and families who are experiencing housing instability. Mass evictions, regardless of the eviction type, could cause COVID-19 to retain a hold in our communities due to those evictions. This is why I feel that a moratorium on non-essential evictions during the current declared state of emergency and an eviction diversion mediation program are so valuable. Frankly, mass evictions during the COVID-19 pandemic could endanger public safety and exacerbate the economic and healthcare crises we've experienced throughout the past year. The eviction moratorium will ensure that compliant tenants will not have their health and safety threatened due to emergency-related circumstances, and they will not contribute to the spread of COVID-19 via housing instability. The mediation program, in my opinion, will create an immediate pathway for all landlords to address grievances outside of non-payment without contributing to the previously mentioned health and safety dangers of evictions during the current crisis. Looking to the future, mediation will become even more necessary when eviction moratoriums have been lifted and landlords pursue evictions for non-payment. If we don't proactively address this potentiality, we will have a housing crisis directly on the heels of the devastation caused by
Maura. You have 10 seconds to wrap it up.
Thank you very much for hearing me tonight. I appreciate it and encourage everyone to vote in support of H5309.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness. Hi, Deborah, are you with us?
Hi, yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your point. Please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Deborah Levy. I'm a renter in Providence, and I'm a community organizer at Childhood Lead Action Project, local community organization dedicated to eliminating lead poisoning in Rhode Island. So I'm here today to testify in support of Bill 5309 to institute an eviction and foreclosure moratorium. I agree with everything that the other supporters have said, and also want to share my perspective from a professional standpoint. The fight for lead poisoning is part of a fight for broader, safe and healthy housing for all, linked to the issue of evictions. It's really difficult to worry about chipping paint, other hazards, when you have to worry about keeping a roof over your head. In the past year, I've also worked on tenants' rights issues more broadly, including one-on-one with tenants being threatened with eviction. I've seen time and time again the CDC moratorium is good, but it's not good enough. It doesn't cover all evictions. It's not automatic. It doesn't offer any protection against foreclosure. This is a justice issue, a racial justice issue, a housing justice issue. It's also not just personal, not just professional for me, but personal as well. I'm a renter in Providence, and so are most of my friends, most of my loved ones in the city and in the state. The stories that I've heard from them and from the people I've worked with in the last year have really broken my heart. I know that this is going to make a difference for them, for the people that I've tried to help. Evictions are always cruel and inhumane, especially right now. We've been demanding a moratorium for almost a year. To be honest, I'm ashamed of the state for not stepping up sooner, but this crisis is very much ongoing, so it's not too late. This bill will give renters and homeowners...
You need to wrap it up in the next 10 seconds.
I will. It will give renters and homeowners more time to get back on their feet, guarantee them a basic human right. I really implore you to listen to the stories you hear and see that voting to pass this bill is the only ethical choice. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness.
Hello, David, are you with us?
Yes.
good evening.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds, so please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you, committee members. My name is David Valise. I am the director for the Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. We're an organization of faith leaders, advocates that come together to fight inequality and poverty. For us, we want to support this bill. It's a very common sense bill. We want to protect families and keep them housed during an emergency. Even before the pandemic, we had not enough low-income housing in Rhode Island. We had over 10% of Rhode Islanders living with housing insecurity. That number has almost doubled with the pandemic. We have a lot of people who've never needed assistance before needing unemployment. Hundreds of thousands of people file for unemployment. So for us, it makes sense that we have a law that protects Rhode Islanders in case of an emergency like the pandemic to keep people housed. We believe that housing is a right and not a privilege, so we want to protect families in Rhode Island. So please support this law. We need it for Rhode Island. It makes sense. And thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful night.
Thank you, David, for your testimony. Next witness. Hello, David, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your point. Please proceed.
Thank you. My name is David Sisson. I live at 238 5th Street in Providence. I am opposed to House Bill 5309. I believe the goals of this bill are laudable. However, the effect of the bill will be the exact opposite. This bill helps problematic tenants who refuse to pay, which ultimately puts costs on the landlords and will put costs onto the tenants who are looking for safe and clean and affordable housing. I, as a landlord, have a small property and have been very lucky to keep the tenant in during COVID, but have had to extend some benefits to this tenant. I'm sorry, I'm just very opposed to this, and I hope you'll vote no on it. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, David, are you with us?
Yes, I am. How are you tonight?
Very good, thank you. Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
I am in opposition of this bill. I feel that is unfairly targeting landlords and housing providers in the state of Rhode Island and creating a giant loophole for tenants who will try and milk the system. Mandatory mediation is something that already takes place during the eviction process. There is no landlord or housing provider that wants, under any circumstance, to go to eviction for any reason. It's costly, it's time-consuming, it's damaging, and no good tenant has ever been evicted for falling on hard times. And I can speak for every landlord when I say that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your testimony, David. Next witness, please. Adriana, are you with us?
Yes.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Please proceed.
Okay, good evening to the House of Judiciary Committee. Thank you for your time for my verbal testimony. My name is Adriana Bonilla. Approximately 2 years ago, I gave birth to my son. During this time, I was unable to receive TDI because I had a 10-month employee work year. I did not receive any form of pay. I also had to pay for my disability money as well as my union dues. This all came out of my pocket. During these trying times, during COVID, we still have to pay for our mortgage, taxes, and insurance for our home, regardless if we receive that from our tenants. We as housing providers should not have to bear burden on our own. We are often than not people who live modestly and are trying to make a living for themselves. These bills greatly would affect our ability to provide affordable, safe housing within community. Landlords would further be burdened financially, and this would jeopardize everything we have worked so hard for. In conclusion, I ask you to oppose H 5309. If this bill is to pass, this would be detrimental to us because having the mediation and allowing a state of emergency declared with no evictions would have both of these things only add further extensions of non-payment, which would create more burdens for homeowners. Many of us are hardworking now. Many of us were hardworking workers that now are homeowners. Sorry, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next witness. Hello, Greg, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make your point. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm calling to oppose Bill 5309. I believe it does two things. It halts nearly all evictions in a state of emergency, but not all states of emergency require a halt of nearly all evictions. Would a severe flood in Warwick mean you don't have to pay your rent in Johnston? That's not clearly defined in this bill. It doesn't say anything that's only related to health crisis. Secondly, the bill also changes the Landlord-Tenant Act. When we are not in a state of emergency, it requires all landlords to participate in a mediation program before they're able to seek relief from the courts. It also asks us to notify the tenant of their right to participate in this program. Housing providers may have to wait up to 30 days or more for a mediation conference before the already lengthy eviction process can begin. Why wasn't it concurrent with the eviction process? Why weren't landlords asked their opinion while drafting this bill? This bill makes being a housing provider much more risky. And in order to limit our risk, we're going to tighten our application standards, our credit scores, our background checks. We're not going to take a chance on you when you're rebuilding your credit. So you're trying to help low-income renters. You're actually going to hurt them, and you're going to hurt minority and low-income landlords who survive in the slightest of margins, and they won't survive when not being able to collect rent. My family was able to climb out of poverty by buying multifamily property, living in it, and renting out the other units.
Thank you,
and it's
Greg.
a great
Could you
way.
wrap it up in like 10 seconds, please?
It's one of the best ways for people of color, minorities, low-income, disenfranchised communities to build generational wealth. And every time that you make it harder for them to do so, you're ruining an avenue for them to help themselves. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, Greg. Next witness, please. Hello, Karen, are you with us?
I am. Here I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1.5 minutes to make your point. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm voicing opposition to House Bill 5309. I object to enabling a Rhode Island eviction moratorium during a state emergency, and I even more strongly object to the proposed mandatory mediation process. The entirety of Bill 5309 is written based on the assumption that most evictions are non-essential. When a landlord files for eviction, seeking a legal judgment, it has become essential. My 81-year-old father lives on the first floor of a 2-unit house that he has owned for 50 years. Historically, he has most often rented to young families because he wants to help them by offering safe and affordable housing. At this very moment, my father is genuinely afraid for his safety. He barely sleeps, stays locked within his unit, and is withering from stress. For the last year, the non-paying tenants above him and their acquaintances have brought increasing violence to my dad's home. Language brought to his doorstep includes larceny, kidnapping, overdoses, harboring a wanted felon with 4 outstanding warrants, destruction, and intent to murder. My father's eviction case is deemed non-essential. No judgment for eviction will come until the
federal moratorium is lifted, the only way our eviction plea could become essential is to obtain a recording of the tenant directly threatening physical harm to my father. My entire family is worried that these tenants will quite literally be the death of him.
Thank you,
Representative, please do not pass this bill.
Have you contacted the police?
Absolutely. We have an inch-thick file from the police. 4 separate attorneys have advised us that unless we have the recording of physical harm, nothing can be done.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear the situation. We'll definitely take your testimony into consideration for certain. And
please
best
do
to
not
your
take this
father.
away from landlords. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, please. Hello, Richard. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1.5 minutes to get your testimony out. Please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Richard Cohn. I'm calling to express my opposition to H5309. I have 2 observations about this bill. The proposed Rhode Island emergency moratorium bill is even more punishing on landlords than the national moratorium. It allows tenants during any declared emergency in Rhode Island to simply stop paying the rent. It doesn't require a tenant to demonstrate that they have been impacted by the declared emergency, and it doesn't offer any rent relief to landlords the way the national bill does. In short, 5309 is unfairly lopsided. But there's a more important reason why I'm objecting to this bill. We all agree, the advocates and the opposers, that there's a shortage of affordable housing in our state, and we're seeing the reaction to this problem right now in our legislature. There's currently some 22 bills in our General Assembly attempting to regulate housing providers. And just like this bill, they are Band-Aids that won't fix the problem. Instead, all these bills do is increase expenses and create uncertainty for property owners throughout the state. I believe that a better idea is, rather than increase regulation and bureaucracy, which doesn't solve the problem, let's focus our energies on increasing the housing stock. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Richard, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, Melissa. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1.5 minutes to make your point. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you very much. Greetings. My name is Melissa Menard, and I have been a resident of Rhode Island for 10 plus years. Me and my wife, Carla Menard, both own investment properties in the state of Rhode Island. I am here to strongly oppose House Bill 5309. I have been lucky to be one of the few that have never needed to evict a tenant. I was paid during the pandemic due to tenants being on disability or government assistance or being an essential worker. That does not mean I've been paid the entire time. There have been some arrangements I've had to make multiple times on their behalf so that make sure that they can pay. Housing providers are understanding of people's situations and want to give tenants chances to figure out plans for payments. This does not mean there have not been other issues that have arisen. Some tenants are continuing to take full advantage of the government's generosity without any intention of paying the rent back. This is not okay, and the housing providers are the only ones who are suffering in this situation. If it is so important that renters get relief, fair is fair, and relief for owners need to be put in place as well. This past year's mortgage payments should have been deferred and forgiven. Support and protections need to be put in place for the immense sacrifices and resources this past year and on has demanded on us. If House Bill 5309 were to pass, along with others like it, I will sell my properties and not buy a single investment again in the state of Rhode Island because the laws would tip so far against me that I would have no other option. A strong and growing coalition has been formed who are opposed to this bill, along with many others. The passage of this may cause many of us to act. This is a plea to the committee not to sit by and allow this legislation to destroy the hard work and sacrifice of my family. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next witness, please. Hello, Angelo, are you with us?
Yes, I'm
Welcome
here.
to House Judiciary. You have 1.5
Thank you.
minutes to make your point. Please proceed.
All right, thank you. I'm Angelo Capsamalis. I'm a small rental property owner here in Pawtucket. I strongly oppose Bill 5309. The proposed bill would create a stricter than the one in effect currently. That would cause Rhode Island a longer eviction ban for 90 days after the CDC emergency ends. There's many property owners hit very hard financially due to COVID and are forced to continue for their mortgages, taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance on the house, while some tenants can stay there rent-free without getting evicted for over a year now. That's very unfair and very disappointing to landlords like me who provide safe, clean, and affordable housing to our local communities. This proposed bill aims to stop all evictions without any money assistance to landlords. Another big problem about this bill is that we require mediation. Do we really want to turn this process to some sort of like divorce court with back and forth accusations? The housing eviction is already a very long process. Even before the COVID evictions, it would take 2-3 months, and they're very costly. They are avoided and used as a last resort by landlords in general. It will make that long and painful process take up to 5-6 months. This proposal will bankrupt many rental property owners just like me, and it seems like problematic tenants and not paying tenants will have more rights to my property than me, the actual property owner.
Thank you for your testimony, Angelo.
So much for having me.
Have a good night. Next witness, please. Hello, Elizabeth, are you with us? Oh, sorry. I thought I heard the jingle.
No, I gotta change.
Hello, Elizabeth, are you with us?
Yes, I'm right here.
Oh, well, welcome to House Judiciary. You have a minute and a half to testify. You
Yes.
have the floor.
Oh, okay.
Please
My
proceed.
name is Yes. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Butler. I am a nurse practitioner in palliative care, and I see patients in the community who are really concerned about financial issues, where the money going to come from to pay their bills, stay in their rented apartment where they've been living for many years, like loving their neighbors and their community. So I'm really testifying for these members of the community so we can help them prevent unnecessary evictions during this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for your testimony. Next witness,
You're
please.
welcome.
We're waiting for the next witness. I guess we're having people unanswering the phone. Well, I just want to thank everyone for hanging around and testifying, and the members of the committee for staying with the program.
Hello?
Hello, Ronnie, are you with us? Oh,
It's Brian, but
sorry.
you can call me Ray, you can call me Jay, whatever.
Well, thank goodness you have a sense of humor. So welcome to House Judiciary. You have a minute and a half to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman, I believe. This bill, I believe, actually in accordance with the testimony of the proponents, is grossly misdirected. No one argues that there is not current awareness of a pandemic and serious issues, or that there might be other sorts of emergencies that could cause very serious economic upset. But the regulation of housing and the application of the laws of eviction are meant to ensure that the housing provider provides a safe environment and treats fairly with tenants. That is not the purpose of this legislation. This legislation effectively would make the housing, as if it were the housing provider's fault that there's a COVID pandemic. That is absurd. Now, this is not reasonable regulation. This is effectively an uncompensated taking, and this is starting to come out. The Sixth Circuit is the first circuit court to strike down the federal moratorium, and property law is often made at the state level, and that does not directly reflect on what happens here. But all of these decisions point out that effectively interrupting the possessory right of a property owner is a very extraordinary thing to do without compensation. And the fact that this bill doesn't mention compensation.
Excuse me, Brian,
Yep.
you have 10 seconds to wrap it up, but we definitely
you got
get
it.
your point.
The fact that this bill doesn't mention compensation means that all the idea that there are some programs floating out in the ether is insufficient. There needs to be a nexus in order to get landlords on board and make this a cooperative project. That was not attempted, and it's very disappointing to landlords that no one talked to us before they put this bill in. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Is this Alyssa? Ronnie. Oh, this is Ronnie. Ronnie, are you with us?
I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1.5 minutes to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you for considering my testimony and against House Bill 5309. My name is Ronnie Vales. I am a landlord. I am a property manager, and I'm also a broker, and I have been doing all of which for almost 20 years. This bill is bad for landlords. You've already heard from a lot of us tonight. It's also bad for tenants. For instance, landlords like me, small mom and pop affairs, will be a lot less likely to consider any applicants that have any blemishes. If you know anybody who rents right now, and I have many family members who do, you'll know that it's very difficult to find an apartment. There are no vacancies. Excuse me, my own company's vacancy rate has been less than 1% for the last 2 years. This is going to make an already vulnerable group of tenants, put them in an even greater, more difficult position to find rentals, because people like me, we're not going to give people a chance. I love giving people a chance. I know also that there is efficient eviction process to back me up if I need to go there. Tenants, if they have issues with their landlords, you have code enforcement. That's your first step. If you have spent any time in eviction courts, you'll know that tenants can come in with any type of evidence and sometimes no evidence at all, plead their case against the judge, they'll get extensions. The judges here are very tenant-friendly. There are a lot of resources that already exist for tenants. Secondly, we have a whole new group of landlords that have bought, who are first-time homeowners, who have bought within the last handful of years, multifamilies.
Ronnie, thank you for your testimony. Your time is up. Next witness, please. Hello, Alyssa, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to get out your testimony. Please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Alyssa Davis, and I am speaking for my partner and I to oppose the bill H5309. I am a millennial in student loan debt, a full-time pediatric nurse in the community, a first-time home buyer, and I am presently homeless due to our tenants. My partner and I recently bought a 3-family in July of 2020 in the city of Westerly that we intended to live in one unit and that was vacant when we bought it.
Although we own this house and pay every month on our mortgage from working our full-time jobs, we have been homeless for the past 9 months due to the tenants we acquired upon purchasing this property. One tenant infested a unit due to the way they chose to live in their own filth. The other tenant works full-time yet refuses to pay due to feeling empowered and protected by the eviction moratorium. We did not think that upon purchasing a multi-unit home that tenants would have more rights than us, that we would be villainized for being landlords, that I would be speaking here today to protest bills that are one-sided and unfair. We are investing in the local community, bettering the rental market with all that we are putting into renovating this house. Legislators should be trying to encourage this, not prevent it. We are opposing this bill due to the negative impact it will have on small landlords like myself. This bill is one-sided and for the tenants. The state of emergency, no evictions, mandatory mediation, and non-essential eviction statements within this bill will make it more difficult for small landlords like myself to effectively evict lease-breaking tenants such as the ones we acquired. It will put small landlords like myself in debt and out of the community. This bill is going to hurt the economy in Rhode Island by discouraging private small landlord ownership of rental properties, raising costs of rent on good tenants to offset the cost of the bad ones, and ultimately drive commerce out of the state due to lack of investors. Please vote against H5309, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Next witness, please. Hello, Etienne, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Please proceed.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I strongly oppose House Bill 5309. Without funding, it's simply not a serious bill. Without direct funding for housing providers that are doing the work, we're doing uncompensated work. And anyone knows that if you purchase a home, you're not making much money. There is no extra money. It's a long-term investment for security for your family and to help improve your community. I, for one, am a person of color, a black man, and this is the best way for me to be have a part of the American dream and have a home. And I rent it out. I live on one side and rent it out. And that's the best option for me right now. There's a lot of us, and people say that some other folks say that this is a racial issue. Yeah, it's a racial issue that you're taking, property and our ability to build wealth over time and also contribute to the community. So that's a racial issue in and of itself. The bill does nothing for landlords. The talk about the preventing foreclosures, if you impose potential foreclosure on us, if you impose us not being able to get paid, the damage is already done. That is not helpful in any way. Please stop saying that. It's not helpful. Once our credit, you have to be a landlord and to be able to fix a heating system and keep a safe place, you have to have good credit. Once you're already at foreclosure, forget about it. So that is not helpful. There's absolutely nothing in this bill that is helpful. This will push out all small and minority-owned property owners. It will only be large landlords left.
Thank you, Etienne, for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, please. Hello, Melody, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am.
You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to voice my opposition to this bill. My name's Melody Make It, and I live in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and I am a landlord. I've been a property manager for over 10 years. I have several single-family homes, all within the city of Pawtucket, which we rehab, make beautiful, and maintain in the highest of standards. I currently have a tenant down the street from my own home on Crest Drive who has, in my opinion, been taking advantage of the current protections afforded to him through the moratorium on evictions. And I find it upsetting that my state is considering this time of all times to be considering additional protections for tenants. Some landlords have gone almost 1 year without being paid as the tenants continue to stay in the home, with landlords having no current recourse. We depend on the current eviction system that exists in the state. there is no need for the protections that are being suggested in this bill that offer additional protection for tenants. The tenants in the system of evictions that already exist is sufficient, and it does not need...
Thank you, Melody, for your testimony. Your time is up, but thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next witness, please. Hello, Steve, are you with us?
I'm here for you.
Welcome to House Judiciary, and you have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Please proceed.
My name is Steve Charette. I oppose the bill. I may be a property owner, but I really don't have a lot of evictions. In 18 years, I've only had 2. Both were merely filed. The tenant never showed up and moved out without further issue. The bill is a blanket law, and that's what concerns me, though. I feel anytime you try to blanket something, it's going to do more worse than good. In essence, we already have this bill in place. Anytime there is any form of a disruption to the court, whether it be weather-related or vacation or anything, the court it only hears emergency motions anyways. Is the heart of the bill saying that the judges and the clerks are not doing a good job with the flow of cases? I mean, that's in the form of a question. What's going on? What's going to happen when there's a drug dealer selling out of an apartment? There's a shooting because of a drug dealer. There's someone with a meth lab, or someone disturbing the neighbors with a trumpet at 2 o'clock in the morning. To the letter of the law, this bill intends to create none of the examples would even meet that burden. And you just heard a few minutes ago from a woman that obviously she gave her examples of what she's been going through, and no justice for her, or rather her father. I feel that it should be left up to the judges to handle. If somebody brings them a motion to say, Susie's late on our rent 2 weeks, the judge already has the discretion to say, this can wait, versus something more drastic is what I just mentioned. It's not behind the words, pose an imminent threat. I mean, the words pose an imminent threat, I mean,
Thank you, Steve.
that's pretty sharp.
Thank you, Steve, for your testimony. Your time is up.
Really? Is that fast? Boy, am I slow
Yeah,
or
minute
what?
and a half. No, you really get your point across, though. We get what you're saying, so thank you.
Ms. Vice Chair?
All right, thank you.
Oh, hold on. I think you have a question. Representative Baptista?
Well, more of a comment, sir. I appreciate your concerns, and they're very real. We're hearing from quite a number of folks, and I honor the fact that I received at least 10 phone calls today. I just wanted to make clear that you knew that there was language in this bill that says that if this bill refers to non-essential evictions. An essential eviction would be an example of what you're talking about. If somebody's committing a crime or committing some sort of imminent or creating some sort of imminent harm to somebody, this bill would not apply. And so I just wanted to be clear with that.
I disagree. I disagree. I absolutely disagree. If I was a judge and you came to me with any of the examples that I gave, I would deny your motion because they're not. If you read the definition that you do have in the bill, it must pose an intimate threat, must pose an intimate. With the example of the trumpet, obviously, they're going to throw it out. With the example of the drug dealer, he's not harming anybody. Let the police arrest him when it's time. They're not going to evict him. And if there's a shooting outside in the front, prove it. Prove it was related to him. Think about it. I mean, with all these examples, it may sound drastic, but that's a very sharp burden there, posing an intimate threat. None of these examples, and if you look at the examples that the woman already gave a few minutes ago, there you go. I mean, the police already told her there's nothing we can do, and all the lawyers she contacted said there's nothing we can do because it's not, the burden is too strong. And anytime you have a burden that's that strong, that's actually stronger than what the criminal court would be, I mean, that's gone too far.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you for testifying tonight. Next witness, please.
He's already told us there's nothing we can do, and all the it's not. The burden is too strong.
Hello, Clinton, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Can you please turn down your device in the background?
Yes, it's down.
Thank you. So you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Hi, my name's Clinton Nenny. I'm a board member of the Providence Apartment Association and also a member of the Rhode Island Coalition of Housing Providers. So I am calling to oppose this bill because it puts a burden on landlords in many ways. It allows tenants to feel that payment of rent is non-essential, unimportant, or needless, which in many ways put landlords in financial risk. Landlords are taking on extra jobs to make extra money and borrowing money to make sure that they could pay their mortgage during the pandemic. Forbearances, while does allow a period of time for a rent to not be paid, is made in a way where payment has to be paid to the point of current status. So it's not like it gets pushed back and can be delayed to the end of the mortgage, and even at that point you would have a balloon payment, but it does have to be paid current at the point of when the forbearance period is over. While this bill not only puts burden on landlords to deal with all of their landlord duties as well as non-payment of rent from their tenants, it also unincentivizes tenants to cooperate with the landlords. And while the bill may be intended to prevent a problem, it actually adds to the problem. A few extra points I would just want to point out really quick. Somebody earlier today said that this bill supports the working class. Well, I have news for that person as well as anybody else. Landlords are part of the working class. And in addition to just being part of the working class, they also provide jobs for some of the working class.
Clinton, could you please wrap it up? You have 10 seconds.
No problem. I just want to thank the committee for their time, and please insist that they should oppose this bill H5309. Thank you.
Thank you, Clinton. Next witness, please. Hello, Nathan. Are you with us?
I am, yes.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Sort of unusual. So, thank you for hearing me tonight. I have cited before, and in all likelihood will cite again, the figure that in Rhode Island at any given time there are more than 800 people who are experiencing homelessness but are not what we would call chronically homeless, meaning that they are homeless by circumstance because their housing has been in danger, they are forced to stay with friends or family, they have been evicted or foreclosed on. And at a time like right now, where we are right on the edge of emerging from one of the worst pandemics in the history of this state, there is nothing more dangerous than risking more people experiencing unsheltered homelessness. When you are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, you are almost always congregating in high population areas. You are not living in safe conditions. You are at high risk to contracting and spreading COVID-19. And that is something that could seriously endanger the recovery of this state. That's one of numerous reasons why it is incredibly important to put a moratorium on unsafe evictions and foreclosures in the state of Rhode Island. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Nathan. Next witness,
night.
please. Shantae. Hello, Shantae. Are you with us?
Hello, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you for listening. So my name is Shantae. I am a nurse here in Rhode Island. As well as a landlord, I own one property in Warwick. I am here speaking to oppose Bill H5309. As my profession, I see and help a lot of people, and I can see why these bills have been proposed. But I do feel that this might have a negative impact that is not foreseen, both on the tenant as well as the landlord. As a small landlord, I would have to potentially save up for about 4 to 6 plus months without rent, especially with the time period of the mediation. That I feel like would result in small landlords having to save the money. That would mean increasing rents as well as putting stricter criteria for the screening process. So I feel that for tenants that this would make obtaining housing more difficult, when I know Rhode Island is definitely making sure to help here with the housing crisis. I know Rhode Island states that they are helping a lot with this. However, I see nothing but vacant properties with a fence around it. And I feel that all these great hero landlords have provided safe, updated housing, and I think that we need to continue to get more minorities like myself, millennials, and Gen Zs to obtain properties to help with this crisis. And something such as this eviction bill, I feel would deter that, and a lot of people would not be obtaining more properties, and this would just be a negative impact for both sides.
Thank you, Shantae, for your testimony. Your
Thank
time
you
is
for
up.
listening.
Next witness, please. Hello, Kashal, are you with us?
Yes, I'm still with you.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Yeah, I'm just a small landlord here in Cranston area. I own just one rental, but I'm just worried that if Bill 5309 is passed, and then I won't be able to evict any of my tenants, even if I have a valid reason to. They may just squat on my property. May it be a pandemic situation or some emergency situation, but emergencies could be very local, like a flood in one area may not affect the other area, but this may just give the tenants to use unnecessary advantage and squat on the properties, and I'm just worried about paying my mortgage because I am dependent on the rent which I will be earning. So I'd like to express my sincere opposition to this bill, and I would really appreciate if you could reconsider small individual landlords like myself.
Thank you very much, Kashal, for your testimony. Next witness. Hello, Eugenio.
Yes.
You're with us, I can see. So, welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Please proceed.
Well, I might not need that much. First of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of this house. I appreciate the opportunity to let me speak on my behalf and behalf of the other landlords and housing providers of Providence. I bought this place at Douglas back in November, and so it's my first house. I live in one of the units, and the other two are being renovated for renting. And I was really scared when I saw this coming through the Facebook feed, at this bill 5309 would endure for us, the landlords, and I thought that I should join the people and oppose this bill because I'm an engineer for trade. That's my career for years. So it's not even mathematically or financially viable. I don't think that's even ethical. We can always think about, providing better housing for the people, but changing like a notice from 5 days to 60 days, that's financially suicide. Nobody can survive with such measures like that, or from 15 days late to be 30 days. So those topics are really, really complicated, and I urge that this this house goes back to the drawing board and rethink of this. This pandemic is hurting all of us, tenants and landlords.
Thank you, Eugenio. Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
Next witness, please. Hello, Renee, are you with us?
I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you for having me. My name is Renee, and about 2 years ago, a single mom of 2 children, I found myself in a situation where my apartment I was living at the house was going to go up for sale. So wanted to stay in the area for my children's school. I looked at nearby apartments and so forth, and they were just so out of I just couldn't afford it. The rents were high, and I found myself able to secure funding, and I bought the house that I was living in. And in turn, what I've been able to do is, knowing the struggle of renters and so forth, I'm able to provide a good, fair rent for
two other, it's a multifamily. So I live on one floor and then I rent the first and second. And so I'm able to offer them a fair rent, and it kind of helps everyone. We all work together, and it's a good rent. If this bill passes, and even if one of my tenants weren't able to pay rent or had some type of issue and I was living in the house with my children and them, it would be such a hardship for me and other landlords, I would imagine, of course, as well. And in turn, everybody would suffer because I would probably lose the property. And not to mention, I have my children living here too. So if I'm ever in a situation where somebody was irate or the situation wasn't, a good one, it would just be, I just can't see how added time would help resolve any of that. And I just think it would be really unfair for any landlord to be in that position and have to be held to a standard that, we...
Yes. Thank you, Renee, for your testimony.
Well, I strongly oppose it, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next witness, please. Hello, Jocelyn Leska, you with us?
Good evening, Representative McAtee. I am with you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you. Please proceed.
I'll go fast. I'm here to oppose both 5309 and 5095. My husband and I own a small housing provider business. I'm a frontline nurse practitioner in a COVID setting. My entire family are proud URI grads, and we're members of the Rhode Island Coalition of Housing Providers. We care for our tenants like family. All but one has been with us for years. In 14 years, we have had one eviction, just one. About 24 months ago, we rented to an individual who appeared to be an excellent candidate. Throughout the pandemic, she created unpleasant interactions for other tenants and neighbors, none of which fit Representative Diaz's descriptions of an essential eviction, but made life absolutely miserable for everyone. Multiple mediation attempts from a neutral party from social services lasting long past 90 days failed, and we had to move to termination. Once mediation began, the tenant stopped paying rent. Our initial action was simply to ask her to vacate. We didn't want to hit her credit. We didn't want to go to eviction. We were forced to move to eviction because of her escalating poor behaviors. Our financial loss amounted to about 1 full year of income from this unit. Despite judgment on our behalf, restitution will be impossible to obtain. These bills don't address a tenant who pays their rent, does not present a threat, but simply can't function within a rental unit and community living. Many evictions are not for failure to pay rent. It is because under the current laws, the landlord has no other means to encourage appropriate community behavior from a tenant except for the potential for eviction. I urge you to pull 5309 and 509. I urge you to form a work group. And I'll immediately volunteer to review the Rhode Island Landlord-Tenant Act to develop humane approaches that protect the tenant and the landlord. Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, please. Hello, Sean, are you with us? Hello, Sean.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Hello, my name is Sean Andrews. I am a resident of Providence. Not entirely sure of my exact district because I just moved here, but I am in opposition to House Bill 5309. And simply put, as a small landlord, I own one property. I live in that property, and first and foremost, I should have every right, as long as I'm following the law, to determine who is allowed to rent my property. If a tenant does not pay their rent on time and cannot pay the rent, I should be allowed to use all legal remedies that exist currently to remove said tenant. And I think that these bills paint all landlords as the enemy when many are people like me who are working people who have one income property and are just trying to survive on their own. I'm lucky enough that I can afford to pay my mortgage if that situation ever came to pass. But I do think I should be allowed to determine who lives in my property, how much they pay, and how I want to proceed in removing them, so long as I'm following the law and respecting their rights as tenants.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Sean. Next witness, please. Hello, Alan, are you with us?
This is he, yes.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Alan McLeod. I am here to testify in strong favor of Bill 5309. I've been listening in on the hearing, and I've heard a lot of impassioned stories from people both for this legislation and against this legislation. And the one thing I continuously hear is that people are struggling and in need. And I've had to ask myself, as someone who has rented his entire life and who would have nowhere to turn if evicted, who are the least of the people we are trying to help here? We're like the most vulnerable in the state. And I am in favor of this bill because this would help the most vulnerable people in the state, the people facing homelessness. And I understand that there is the plight of small landlords. I do. But I would argue that the testimonies we've heard tonight point more toward the fact or the idea that the state isn't doing enough to protect small landlords, and less to do with the idea that an eviction moratorium for the state of Rhode Island is a bad idea. I think they're two separate things. People are going to be, on the streets. The federal moratorium does not cover all evictions, and it's not automatic, which means you have to understand if you are covered by it, and then bring that to your landlord. I would encourage the passage of this bill, and I would also encourage the legislature to look at what they can do to support small landlords. The fact of the matter is, no one wants to be homeless. No one wants to lose their house, and that includes landlords and that includes tenants. But without the passage of this bill, there is no recourse if the federal moratorium expires.
Thank you, Alan. Your time is up. But thank you for your
very much.
testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, Brenda. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Okay, I will. It is very hard during this time, during the pandemic, for people to get monies and to keep up with a lot of the things, utilities, food, but most importantly, a roof over their heads, and that is rent. And also for those landlords that have tenants that are not able to keep their jobs or they don't have their jobs due to the pandemic, well, they're also lacking because they have no income. So if anyone can find in their hearts to see that this is a condition that none of us are used to. We've been thrown into something that is just out of the ordinary, and it's putting a strain on everyone. Women that are single parents, that have to raise children, and if they're evicted, I know they can be put out. They have to find a place to go to, hopefully a shelter, but if not, it's possibly a friend or a family member that might be able to take them in. And then if that happens, we don't know, well, are the conditions so that they're good for them and the children? Also, the landlords, I look out for them because it's a struggle to hold on to property. It is very expensive. When I first got here, I could see a house for $60,000 on Elmwood. Those same houses are going for over $200,000 or $300,000 right now.
Well, you're right about that, Brenda. So thank you. Your time is up. But thank you very much for your testimony.
God bless. Thank you.
God bless
Bye-bye.
you, too.
Thank you, hon. Bye-bye.
Next witness, please. Oh, excuse me. We have one question for you, Brenda, from Representative Vella Wilkins.
Madam Chairman, it's not a question for the last witness. I just am requesting of you to have my attendance and my votes recorded.
Oh, so ordered.
Thank you.
How's that? Thank you. Thank you, Brenda, again. Next witness, please. Where is, Malchus, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say good evening to the chairman and to the members of the House Judiciary Committee. My name is Malchus Mills. I'm at present the vice chairman of DARE, Direct Action for Rights and Equality. And I'd like to speak on HB 5309 on behalf of making this, on behalf of passing this bill. We need a bill for states of emergency. This coronavirus has shown us that we've never been through anything else, at least not in my lifetime, and I'm 68 years old, like this. And as far as the housing goes, we already have a housing crisis as it is. We already have too many people on the streets and in shelters as of right now. There should be no evictions, no foreclosure, and even after the state of emergency is over, we need some type of mandate for mediation, because there are going to be too many people put out on the street and homeless. We can't take care of the homeless folks.
Thank you, Malchus, and thank you for all you do, but thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Your time is up. Next witness, please. Hello, Gregory, are you with us? Gregory. Hello, Gregory, are you with us?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Representative McIntyre for chairing this hearing tonight. This has been an incredible amount of testimony. Really want to also thank every member of the House Judiciary Committee. My name is Gregory Waxmolsky. I'm in House District 59, and I'm speaking tonight in support of Bill 6309. I just want to start off by saying, while it's been entertaining to hear a lot of housing providers come out tonight, I have a feeling a lot of them are going to feel awfully foolish in the morning when they realize that they were given talking points on exactly half the bill. It seems like a lot of folks are missing the point of a piece of legislation that protects everyone in Rhode Island from not only evictions, but also non-essential foreclosures. Now, I just want to be quick here. I'm down to 50 seconds. Is it a hit for landlords to not evict someone during a public health emergency? To have to take time to let rental debt programs to apply and receive payouts directly to their banks? Is it a hit for landlords to admit that maybe what was passive income before is no longer available? Yeah. But that's what emergencies require, and that's why we must protect landlords from foreclosures while they do their part and keep the poor and the vulnerable housed during an emergency. Anyone who says different is obviously talking to you from an uninformed position or worse.
Thank you, Gregory. Can you wrap it up in 10 seconds, please?
Oh, I was on my way out the door.
Okay.
Have a great night. We'll see you in the morning.
You too. Thank you very much. Next witness,
Thank you.
Please. Hello, Danielle. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Well, thanks so much for listening to us in the state. I represent, and by represent, I mean I am a property manager for several hundred units in the state of Rhode Island, from Coventry, Providence, Warren, Pawtucket, and Johnston. And so as a housing provider in the area, I want to underscore that
Bill H5309 do not think it serves the people and certainly does not provide any opportunity for us as large business taxpayers and housing providers to expand our opportunities to grow. Certainly, we are providing housing for a very diverse population of people, and it's well-maintained housing, professionally managed. We're able to take any profitability that is formed and put it back into the assets to continue to grow the area and provide additional resources for those people. Certainly, safe housing is something that's even more critically important, as we've learned last year. So just for us to be able to continue to provide amenities and resources that many of our Rhode Islanders take advantage of, I strongly oppose 5309, and I ask for your consideration to consider the long-term impact on housing providers and residents.
Thank you, Danielle, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, Janice. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you very much for your time. I'm opposed to House Bill 5309 with its eviction moratorium and mandatory mediation. I've owned rental property for the last 37 years. My units would all be classified as affordable even though they are not subsidized by the state or federal government. And virtually all of my tenants make less than 80% of median income, which is the HUD's definition of low income. No property owner ever wants to evict a tenant. It is absolutely the last resort, and everyone loses. The CDC has already extended the federal eviction moratorium to June 30th. Rhode Island Housing is starting to take applications tomorrow for their new rental assistance housing programs, which will help tenants bring their rents up to date. The state of Rhode Island does not need to do anything further than that at this time. Please don't make any changes in terms of an additional moratorium or changes to the Rhode Island Landlord-Tenant Act. Any changes will only increase my costs, which will get passed on to the tenants and adversely affect the tenants that you're trying to protect. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Janice, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, Kenya. Are you with us? Hello, Kenya. Are you with us?
I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Kenya Trinidad. I do oppose Bill H5309. I think it is unfair as we landlords care for not only our property but also the tenants. We do understand that COVID has impacted many of us, but also us landlords have been affected by COVID personally and professionally. I do think that it is extremely important to understand that us landlords, we are still responsible to pay our mortgage, property taxes, utility bills, and still make improvements on the property. And if tenants aren't paying to keep up with these bills, then us landlords cannot keep our end of the bargain. So please keep that in mind as you are moving forward with this bill.
Thank you very much, Kenya, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, David. Are you with us?
Yes, hi.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
All right, great. Thank you. Good evening. My name is David Newell, and I'm calling into an opposition of H5309. As a landlord, I do take pride in my property and providing affordable housing to others, and I also have to rely on the rents to pay the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, as well as maintain the property for the other tenants. Unfortunately, I've had to withstand the stressful, exhausting, and expensive process of eviction twice. We all know that's a last resort and have realized that the tenants do know the laws better than most landlords and have used the system against me each time. This bill further removes rights from the homeowner and further empowers tenants to take advantage of the system and as a landlord and landlord's resources. A bill like this would really strain the homeowner and make an already long and grueling process of eviction even longer. It's completely inequitable and clearly positioned against the mom-and-pop landlord and homeowner, and legislation needs to be withdrawn immediately for further review. And I can see nothing but hurting the other tenants also in the building by preventing a bad tenant from being removed. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much, David, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, Tim. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Tim DeChristopher. I'm a resident of Pawtucket, and I'm also a owner and landlord of a 4-unit apartment building about a block away from where I live. I have tenants that, like many others, couldn't pay their rent for much of last year due to the COVID crisis, and much of that I have yet to recover. But I'm here today to testify in support of this bill of 5309. I recognize that this bill is not perfect and certainly won't fix our housing crisis in Rhode Island, but in this moment of emergency, I think it's a step in the right direction towards a more humane housing system. There's two reasons that I became a landlord and decided to invest in rental property. The first is that I wanted my investment money to do something positive for my community rather than just go towards big corporations in the stock market. But second, I knew that investing in housing was a safe investment. It would always hold value because housing is a basic and essential human need. And so in a market system, that's a privileged place to be in, of providing essential human needs that everybody has to have. A house will always be valuable because people always need a place to live.
Thank you,
but
Tim,
I
for your
recognize
testimony.
as a
Your time
landlord,
is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next witness, please. Hello, Isaiah. Are you with us?
Yep.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
I'd like to thank the chairperson and the committee for hearing me on this. First, I'd like to inform an earlier witness, Fatima, the landlord, that the eviction she described would still be legal under this bill. I am urging you to support this bill as someone who has struggled with homelessness and has been organizing and working on mutual aids within the state for several months now to provide homeless people clothes, food, and sanitary products during this pandemic. I speak a lot with the people who I serve in my mutual aid and often hear about people losing housing due to COVID. I am proud of my work as someone who redistributes donations in Rhode Island to the homeless, but giving blankets to several people in tents does not fix their exposure to the virus. It is a temporary solution to a permanent problem. Even our donors talk about how they've been struggling with rent, how they are keeping their jobs to afford housing even though it exposes them to coronavirus. And we as Rhode Islanders should not be forced to choose between coronavirus and an eviction. We can't rely on sporadic charity events such as the ones of my own to provide for the people that our state neglects. Even I am struggling, and I wonder what happens to all of these charity acts once I lose my housing or can't find a job. Even before the pandemic, Rhode Island was experiencing a housing crisis. I would recommend watching Providence Lost, which focuses on a family in Providence that was evicted from their home and faced a corrupt housing system within Rhode Island. While Massachusetts spends $100 per person on affordable housing, which
Good one.
What?
Sorry,
Did somebody say something?
No, go ahead, proceed.
which isn't even enough. Rhode Island spends only $8 on each individual. In the past, when I've struggled with housing, I relied primarily on charity organizations or even had to leave the state to find support. And while vaccinations reduced the public health crisis of this pandemic, very little has been done to protect Rhode Islanders from the massive loss of jobs and housing. People should not spend all of our waking hours struggling to pay the bills for things that we need in order to live. I am urging you to support this bill and would be happy to answer any questions you have for me as someone who runs mutual aids and for the homeless and as a formerly homeless person myself.
Thank you, Isaiah, and thank you for all you do. Next witness, please. Hello, James, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Great, thank you. My name is James Walsh, and I'm calling in support of Bill 5309. I believe housing is a human right, and it is cruel to evict so many people, not only when we already have a homelessness crisis in Rhode Island, but also during a global pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. I myself worked professionally as an actor and singer prior to the COVID pandemic, and with the theater industry presumed dead for the foreseeable future, I've struggled in finding work that pays substantially enough to cover all of my living expenses, including rent. It is cruel to force someone into homelessness due to circumstances outside of their control, such as the pandemic. Thank you, and again, please support Bill 5309.
Thank you. Thank you, James, for your testimony. Next witness, please. Hello, Stephen, are you with us?
Thank you. Hello, yes.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm Steve Torty. I am calling in to oppose H5309. And just a quick comment from the very top of this. Enrique said that he doesn't even think that we should be doing this. I just want to let everybody know this is freedom, and this we all have the opportunity to do it. So this is why we're doing this. I oppose this bill for a number of reasons. One of them is that the state of emergency is far too general. My concerns here are similar to everybody else. Why, if there's a flood in Westerly, do people in the socket not have to pay rent? That doesn't seem to make any sense there. Also, housing shortages. As it's been mentioned before, in Rhode Island we have a housing shortage. If the government makes buying and operating good, clean apartments more difficult, this will exacerbate the problem even further. If it were me in a position of public service, I would make it easier for homes to be developed, managed, and provided to extinguish the problem. We're doing the opposite in H5309. The side effect of coming down hard on housing providers creates less incentive to buy, renovate, and service apartments, leading less of us to do it, and more rundown apartments, which can even lead to blight. We needed apartments, and we need them yesterday. To point out, now I don't even list my apartments in the very rare event that I have an opening, usually on the initial purchase. People are knocking on the door, literally, seeing me painting through the window, getting an apartment rent ready as they walk down the street. And you may think I love that, and sure, it's nice to have an endless supply of applicants, but it's a glimpse into how bad it is out there to find apartments. I've opened up my properties to housing choice voucher programs, the Section 8 program, because it's so needed and it fits my business strategy. It's me as a private landlord filling the needs of the people. This is what the system was designed for.
Thank you, Stephen, for your testimony. Your time is up, but we appreciate your testimony.
Yep.
Next witness, please. Hello, Randall, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. Please keep it brief, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm in support of the bill. Then let me just keep it really simple. The reason why we need an eviction moratorium is because of a public health emergency. The CDC mentioned that their models show that if somebody is evicted, their chances of getting coronavirus go up by 40%. And this is a matter of life and death. People die of COVID, and this is recent statistics. The rollout of the vaccine has not affected that. It's still This was a CDC statement from earlier this week, and there is no cure still for coronavirus. I understand there's an impact on landlords, but let's be honest. We all know that many industries have been much worse hit than the landlord industry, and some industries are just totally out of work. Landlords will be impacted, just like most industries have been impacted, but not all that much. Not enough to override the issue of life and death. This bill is actually milder than measures in effect in other states by some measures, such as Minnesota, Hawaii, and so on, Washington State. The CDC order is nice, but the courts recently struck down the CDC order because the CDC did not have the legal authority to issue an eviction moratorium. We do. So it's good to have a bill like this, which is in between the CDC order
Thank
and
you, Randall. Thank you, Randall, for your testimony. Your time is up. Thank you. Next witness, please. Hello, Justin, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. First of all, my name is Justin Mann. I'm a property manager of over 1,000 apartments and homes here in Rhode Island, and I'm also a landlord. I'd like to thank the chairman and the members of the committee to give me a chance to speak, and I'd like to register my strong opposition to this bill. It's important to understand that the rental environment is an ecosystem. The eviction process is a necessary option of last resort that is a critical part of that ecosystem. Landlords choose eviction only when all else has failed. It's costly, it's time-consuming, and it's to be avoided whenever possible. Tenants willing to work towards a solution with landlords generally don't end up in court, and if they do, it is to work towards a solution. However, evictions do serve a purpose, not only for the land, but most importantly, also for other tenants. You've heard testimony about other bad tenant behavior that affected other tenants around them. Non-payment of rent also affects those same good tenants. There is a process that exists and it works. Courts are sometimes necessary to force action on the part of tenants who would otherwise take no action on their own. We've seen this, and it's worked to a mutually beneficial solution. The eviction process allows for the courts to adjudicate when all other measures have failed. Denying the landlord's ability to enforce the collection of rent will negatively impact all parties. Reduction of inventory of landlords as they exit the market will reduce inventory available for other tenants, driving up rents, and ultimately exacerbating the very problem you're seeking to solve.
Thank you, Justin, for your testimony. Your time is up, sir.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next witness, please. Hello, Thomas, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to House Judiciary. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to testify. Please proceed.
Thank you very much for hearing my testimony. I'll make this brief. Most of my points have probably already been made, but I'll reiterate them. I strongly oppose H 5309. It is an attack on housing providers. We are your neighbors, taxpayers, job creators, and voters. No landlord wants to waste a day in court. It is expensive and time-consuming. We currently have an eviction process that offers mediation that has worked well for years and forces a compromise solution to the tenants and to the housing providers. This bill will have unintended consequences that will force housing providers to pass their losses onto future tenants. Thank you for your time and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Thomas, for your testimony, and that concludes the testimony on House Bill 5309. And with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh, I hope you got that, Roberta. There were so many motions and seconds. We are adjourned. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Vice Chair.